The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is June 11th, 2020, episode 207. And this week, Chaz, America-Geddon crazy. America-Geddon crazy? We are getting a little loopy with these titles, and my name is also Basil.
And this is Gonz. It's okay if we're loopy with the titles because we're trying to summarize everything going on, but also have fun with the title.
The entire world in like 3 words.
Three words, one hyphenated fake word, but okay, sure.
All right, how you doing,
Okay.
Gonz? Are you up for the challenge of the show today?
I'm totally ready. We couldn't do a show yesterday, normal time Wednesday, and we can't do a show tomorrow, Friday, so happy to do something today, Thursday, and just get on with it, because there's a lot going on.
So much going on. In
Yeah.
fact, there's a couple, I'm a little, everybody's a little disappointed we couldn't do a show yesterday, but I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But if we did do a show yesterday, Gonz, it would have almost been an entirely different show. I mean, so much has happened in just the 24 hours since we tried to do the show yesterday.
Well, part of it has to do with there wasn't any kind of mainstream reporting of the Chaz situation.
Right.
There was obviously a lot of people talking about it on social media and whatnot, but nothing on the mainstream outlets, or at least nothing big on it yet. So we'll cover some of that today. But before we jump in, I do want to just quickly mention that I was invited back to Hear the Watchman, which is a conference. It's going to be in Orange County, California, November 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th at the Hilton Irvine Orange County Airport. And familiar faces, Derek Gilbert, Dele Marzulli, Bill Salas, Paul Begley, Sharon Gilbert, David Heavener, Michael Boldea, Joni Stahl, and the Bangos Worship Music. So head over to hearthewatchman.com to get tickets.
They put on
and
a
stuff.
great event.
Yeah, and I can't believe it's already going to be a year since the last one, but there you go. And that's actually the time, right about the time the baby's supposed to be born, so I may not be able to hang out, but I'll be there to at least present. So that's the plan right now.
I'll certainly be trying my best to get down there and hang out at the conference and meet everybody and say what's up. Maybe record another episode down there. Who knows? Could be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Are we? Are we ready to go here? Are you going to do your Flippy update, or you got something else?
I wanted to do a quick thing because we get a lot of new people watching the show. And Gonz, we've gotten some criticism a little bit. Well, we always get criticism.
We get tons of criticism. So before you comment, anybody listening or watching this afterwards, and you don't have to comment every single. There's a guy that I don't remember his name, but he comments every single episode. Get rid of the googly eyes. Get rid of the googly eye guy. I can't watch this. The googly eye.
I thrive on triggering you. The more you're triggered, the more I feel accomplished in this life. So there you go. Just keep that in mind. Googly eyes are staying on. But a different piece of criticism that we've gotten, Gonz, and I'm glad we did, because it brings up the conversation I want to have right now, which is, people being also triggered that we read from mainstream news sources,
right?
That they read all day on Facebook and they just want to hear us read it. But the point of this show is not to disseminate, every conspiracy theory blog post we see throughout the week. Okay, that's not what the show's about. The show is about examining the mainstream both the mainstream. We also read from some, fringy stuff. And it's not just about reporting the news, but it's about deconstructing how the news is given to us and taking a wide look at all the media that's presented to us and making sense of it, connecting the dots, seeing where there's, deception involved, pointing out double speak and mind control techniques and lies a lot of times. It's about taking a wide look at all the media that's being put out to us, including the mainstream, because one of the most important things we can do is be able to identify deception is a strong word, but identify the inconsistencies, identify the biases, identify all these types of things within all types of news media, and then connecting the dots to build a fuller, richer idea, not just of what's going on in the world, but where everybody stands and the types of strategies they're using to further agendas. So that's what we're about here on the show. We're not here to just read the craziest news we can find. It's about taking all the news from a lot of different sources, putting it in context of not just the world as it is now, but how it has been sort of in a biblical sense and how it will be in a sort of prophetic sense. That's the whole point here. Okay. So don't get mad that we're going to be reading from CNN. We're going to be reading from Fox. We're going to be reading from a lot of mainstream sources, and that's because that's what the show's about. All of us learning how to navigate, the bits and bytes of media that are forced down our throats all day long.
Yeah, and that's very consistent with what I had been doing with the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel to begin with. Obviously, it's a different mood with the show because, with you and I together, we're just a couple of goofballs here, and we throw jokes and there's inside jokes and, we have fun with it. But, and I get that's a different tone from the solo videos where I'm not going to just sit there and laugh at my own jokes or make jokes when I'm by myself making a video about something. It's just, it's a different type of situation, but it's okay because there's a time for everything, as the Bible says, Basil. Time for laughter, time for
that's right.
Morning,
and a thing to mention too, just for all you YouTube folks, who came to Face Like the Sun to see Gons make another wonderful video. The reason Gons and I have been podcasting together for almost a full decade. So for those who are wondering who this new guy is with Gons,
who's this googly eye?
It's the
Although
new
googly
guy
eyes is pretty new.
We've
the
been
googly eye
partners
itself
for almost 10 years now doing all sorts of podcasting. So, there you go. Anyways, just to catch everybody up. Okay. Yeah, I think it's time we get into the show, Gons.
Let's do it.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
And so everybody knows we give updates on our friend named Flippy. And if you don't know, Flippy is the robotic disembodied arm that are taking over our jobs and enslaving our children and flirting with our spouses. We use Flippy, who is a burger flipping robot from Misa Robotics, to examine the broader categories of how robotics and automation and artificial intelligence are making their way into all of our lives, sometimes in very sneaky ways, and what that means for the rest of our life. So, Gons, today is a very interesting Flippy update. This is from robotics.news. The article is titled, "People Would Rather Lose Their Job to a Robot Than to Another Person," says researchers. But what happens when all the jobs go to robots?
Ooh. Even podcasts?
No one wants. Yeah, right. We all become podcasters.
Either that, I'm saying, what about the podcast jobs when they go to the robots? What then?
I know.
What then for us?
I think we're fairly safe, but someday there will be a podcast robot, and we too shall be relegated to the job list. Okay, the article reads, "No one wants to think about losing a job, especially if you're supporting a family. But interesting research has revealed what people think about their coworkers getting replaced or losing their own jobs to robots. In a paper published in the journal Nature Human Behavior, scientists from the Technical University of Munich in Germany and Erasmus University in Rotterdam found that most employees don't mind losing their own jobs to a robot compared to another human. The findings shed light on the psychological severity of this scenario, which may vary depending on who will hypothetically take over the volunteer's job, another human being or a robot. For the first study, scientists interviewed 300 participants who were asked if they prefer losing their own job or having coworkers replaced by either robots or other people. When asked what they thought about having a colleague replaced, 62% said they would prefer to see another person take their coworker's place. However, when asked about their own replacement, 37% say they would rather have a robot take over their own jobs. For the second study, 251 volunteers were asked to rate how much negativity they felt about losing a job to a robot compared to another human. The scientists found that respondents tend to feel more negatively when robots replaced a coworker's job than if they were to lose their own. The discrepancy could be due to how the volunteers self-reflected during the imaginary scenario. Volunteers viewed being replaced by another person as a slight on their own competence, but they didn't take it personally if they were replaced with robots. According to the researchers, the participants may feel devalued and doubtful of their own abilities when replaced with other humans. If robots entered the picture, people might simply feel their workplace is only adopting more advanced ways of getting the job done. With robots, humans don't feel the need to be competitive, unlike another person. For the third study, the scientists asked 296 volunteers who worked in manufacturing if they thought they might lose their jobs one day because of some form of technology. Findings showed that at least 1/3 of the respondents felt like they could be replaced by robots. While a robot uprising does not seem to be an immediate concern, the paper suggests that most workers fear a robot takeover in the workplace. Amen, brothers. According to an employment outlook from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, an association made up of 36 countries across the world, within the next 2 decades, 50% of all jobs will be substantially transformed by technology. This means workers will lose their jobs outright. The OECD notes that at least 14% of jobs will be completely automated within 20 years. On the other hand, 32% of jobs, when the respondents were discussing the replacement of other people's jobs with robots over their own. They concluded that replacing human labor with robots or other forms of advanced technology may have unique psychological consequences that can be addressed if lawmakers offer counseling programs and support for future workers. So there you go, Gons. People don't mind being replaced by robots.
Well, they don't mind being replaced by robots, but it's like a pride thing, right? Because they were saying, it's what was it? Less likely to be upset about a coworker getting replaced by a robot or something. Anyway,
yeah. Well, they were less upset by themselves getting replaced by robots than their coworkers getting replaced by robots. But it's interesting how they put it in those psychological terms. I mean, that's something. We talk about robots taking over the world all the time, and we talk about the brainwashing, that makes us love them and give them humanity and things like that. It's a sketchy thing, man. If the robots come for your job, apparently you're not going to be that sad about it.
Yeah.
It's like I would much prefer that you replace me with a robot than me replace you with a robot. Whoa.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting a text message from the wife saying that there's an Antifa protest scheduled basically around the corner from the house.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, get the barbed wire out.
Yeah, okay.
Barbed wire and dogs.
Yeah. Fortunately,
et cetera.
our dogs, no more dogs in our family right now. But
yeah.
If those of you guys who used to listen to Canary Cry Radio way back in the day, I did tell a story about one time where we heard some noise downstairs, and I grabbed one of the dog bones, like the
Yes,
real.
your caveman defense mechanism.
Yeah. Don't mess. I'll come after you with one of those. Really, they hurt, man. One of those things has fallen on my head. It's a very painful experience. So
yeah, I believe you. Blunt force trauma. A lot of ways to do it.
You know what else would be fun is if we since you're talking about the Flippy update, if we get that robot arm strap onto the chest thing, didn't we report on that like many episodes ago? I think that thing we need to roll that thing out. Yeah. We're ready for
get some
one of those.
Extra robot appendages.
Yeah.
I like it.
People away.
I like it. I know. But yeah, the size that switch starts to happen. So we'll see. Who knows? Maybe it'll be just a nice Star Trek universe where everybody, all the jobs are day. Woo!
No, that's if you remember the Peter Joseph documentary. What was it? Somebody in the chat remembers. It was the third installment of. What was the big movie that like tried to debunk Jesus to say he was the same as all the different ancient gods and stuff? Mithra and what was the name of the film? I can't remember the name. I'm totally blanking. Somebody in the chat has to know. Okay.
All right.
Anyway,
so what's the
point,
third
though? Zeitgeist. Thank you. General Drunken Stumble. I'm not going to say that last part. Zeitgeist. All right. Yes. Zeitgeist. Okay. So the third version of Zeitgeist had the whole thing about the central city where the robots control and provide the food and the clothing. And then there's concentric rings from that central robot, whatever, factory, basically allowing us to just do art and thrive as humans because we don't have to work anymore. So
as if a utopia would actually make people happy.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a whole philosophical conversation about that, but we'll save that for another episode.
Yeah. Okay.
But, Gon, speaking of Antifa.
Get in the zone. Capitol Hill Auto Zone. Chaz stinks.
Capitol Hill Auto Zone.
That's right.
So everybody's heard by now. Now here's the thing, Gons. The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in Seattle. This we had planned for the show yesterday, and it was very strange. We're gonna read some articles now, but all of these articles were posted today. Just as a brief review for those living under a rock, and Antifa and Black Lives Matter and whoever, is up there. The police backed out of a district in Seattle, leaving it to the protesters, and they have more or less, experimentally seceded. And this happened on Monday. Which yesterday, being Wednesday, happened 2 days before that. And for 3 days total, not a single mainstream report on it whatsoever. There was one Fox article that mentioned it, but the article was actually about the police chief stepping down and just sort of peripherally mentioned the autonomous zone. It took mainstream media 3 days to figure out how to report on this, if they were even going to report on it. So we're going to bring a couple of those articles now. We're going to do one from Fox and one from CNN and see what we're looking at. So first, here we go. FoxNews.com article titled "Seattle Autonomous Zone Has Armed Guards, Local Businesses Being Threatened with Extortion," police say. Seattle police say they have received reports of armed guards and potential extortion in a self-declared autonomous zone that spans several blocks and includes a now closed precinct. Quote, "We've heard anecdotally reports of citizens and businesses being asked to pay a fee to operate within the area. This is the crime of extortion. If anyone has been subjugated to this, we need them to call 911, Assistant Chief of Police Deanna Nolet said on Wednesday. Protesters calling to defund the police and make sweeping reforms to law enforcement tactics have declared a 6-block region spanning 13th Avenue past 11th Avenue near Cal Anderson Park and from East Olive Street to East Pike Street the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, or Chaz. The region encompasses the SPD's East Precinct, that's Seattle Police Department, which has abandoned by cops on Monday, following days of violent clashes between law enforcement and protesters in the wake of George Floyd's death, as well as parts of Capitol Hill. Officers retreated from the area in an effort to quell the violence, which included multiple shootings. One that was sparked after a man rammed his vehicle into a crowd of protesters. Police officers have deployed tear gas and pepper spray to disperse large groups of people. Quote, "We wanted to be able to facilitate and support peaceful demonstrations," Nolet said. Demonstrations within the autonomous zone have been mostly peaceful with no reports of violence, but police say armed guards have been surrounding the perimeter of the region, and residents who live within the boundaries are, quote, "forced to show ID to prove that you, quote, belong there," a law enforcement official told Fox News. Speaking on the condition of anonymity because they are not authorized to discuss the unfolding situation, the official told Fox News some people living in the area, which includes numerous bars, restaurants, businesses, and private residences, have been, quote, "begging for help because they are not being allowed into their homes without ID. Police have been told to stay away from the region unless there is a call to 911 for help. The official also added that leaders in the anti-cop zone are, quote, "starting to extort money from local businesses within the border for protection." Mackenzie Diamond, who lives in the autonomous zone, told Kairos 7 the experience has been a bit stressful. Quote, "It's like checking in with somebody to get into your own home," Diamond told the news outlet, "just making it so people can get into their buildings, keep the zone however they want, and move the fencing so people can go home." Quote, "No one at these checkpoints has a legal authority to demand identification from anyone. We ask if anyone is subjected to these demands to call 911 and report the incident," Nolet said. While Washington is an open carry state, there is no legal right for those arms to be used to intimidate community members, she told Como News. Nolet also added that they are aware of the threats to burn down the East Precinct, which she said would endanger residents, firefighters, and businesses. The police department is looking to start negotiations with the leader of the protest movement to gain access to the police precinct, but are unsure of who is leading the demonstrations. Quote, "It's just a matter of establishing this dialogue. We'd love nothing more than to be able to open our precinct buildings," Nolet said. "What we want to do is give an opportunity for everyone's tempers to calm and for us to approach the table with a view towards equality." Supporters of the movement have posted photos on social media depicting a large but peaceful scene. Within the blockade region, occupiers have set up tents, painted murals, and have music playing from speakers throughout the night. One resident in the area told police that there were tents lining my streets, barricades littered throughout the intersections by protesters, and civilians walking around with AR-15s, an official told Fox News, and the noise has not stopped. Seattle Fire Chief Harold Scoggins, whose firehouse is a few blocks from the region, has been one of the only city officials seen in the area working alongside demonstrators, according to Como News. Quote, "Well, we got a team. We are working through this, and there is some trust built, and I don't want to compromise that trust," Scoggins told the news outlet. On Wednesday, President Trump demanded law and order in Seattle as the scene unfolded. Domestic terrorists have taken over Seattle, run by radical left Democrats, of course, he said on Twitter. Trump lambasted Democratic Governor Jay Inslee and Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan, urging them to take control of the situation. And then they post some tweets from Trump, but we'll talk about that later. So there you go. Of course, well, I don't know what anybody would expect, but some of the more disturbing aspects of this is not, just the autonomous zone. And here's something I've learned throughout researching this. I spent many hours yesterday, not just looking at this particular one, but looking at the concept of autonomous zones, the history of autonomous zones, and all sorts of things like that. And apparently, these autonomous zones aren't that rare, Gons. Throughout the world, people are, these experimental autonomous zones sort of pop up a couple times a year throughout, the whole world. So we don't hear about them that often. They could be happening in Tibet or, places we don't get a lot of news from. But apparently this happens fairly often in a lot of other places. But one thing that was noted in the history of these things is they only end two ways. There's historically only two ways that these autonomous zones go. One of them is they institutionalize, which means they create their own government and basically become the monster they were trying to kill, or the government just comes in with the military and takes it back like in a day. Not a big deal.
So it's militant either way almost.
Yeah, this happens a couple times a year across the world, and it never ends up very well. I mean, there are records of autonomous zones lasting for, like 10 years it might happen. But like I said, that usually comes with institutionalization and, a sort of informal government gets put in place. And then you start hearing about these things that are happening in Seattle, which is, and we're going to talk a lot about this autonomous zone. So maybe I'll save the rest for as we come across it.
Yeah, I have a friend up there in the Seattle area, and he was on a group chat text thing with someone that's PD up there, and he basically said it's the wild, wild west down there.
Oh yeah,
so
no, I don't doubt it.
Yeah, and so be safe out there. But yeah, I mean, this is it's troubling. I want to know. I'm curious to find out who really mobilized this whole thing. Who set up the idea to start it? Because once the idea spreads, you got enough people protesting and whatever to like, yeah, good idea, and then help push the barricades in place and put up the signs and whatever. But I want to know who initiated it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people always say, oh, it's Antifa. Very easy to just call out Antifa, but like who actually did it? It's similar to all the looting and the violent, the man with the black umbrella, the man in black with the umbrella that we reported on that started breaking the glass of the AutoZone, ironically named AutoZone, right? Which I think George Soros does own some kind of stock in. But anyway, that's what I'm wondering. Who was the initiator of this whole thing? Because there's protests happening all over the country or all over the world. And some of them are violent just based on, whatever, just people getting riled up, provocateurs and whatnot. But in this instance, there's a little bit more strategy in terms of what, section to cut off and what to do, what they're about, and the whole deal. So kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, Capitol Hill in Seattle is actually a fairly famous district there. It was the site of a lot of LGBTQ stuff within Seattle itself. So it's a fairly, during the LGBTQ movement for decades, need to pull the police out. That was one of the craziest things about this was this actually came about. It's only allowed because the police retreated from the whole precinct. They boarded up the windows to the police station and just left and let everybody kind of take over. That's what happened there.
Didn't the article? Did the article state about the who was it? The mayor or somebody? I saw the footage earlier today, I think, and I think it's a couple days old now. The story or the footage, but basically he was told about the Chaz, and he was like, "Oh, I don't know anything about it." He kind of denied. He denied it, and it was like, "Really, dude? You have no idea that they've blocked off a part of the anyway."
Yeah, the
governor.
I believe the
Jay
mayor is a
Inslee.
woman named Jenny something.
Jenny Durkin. Oh, maybe it was the governor.
Yeah,
I think it was the
Inslee
governor,
is the
Jay
governor.
Inslee. Yeah, he was the one that was up there in the press conference. Like, oh, it's the first time I'm hearing about it.
That's
like,
funny.
Right.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
Anyway.
of course. That doesn't look good either way
No.
you cut it.
No. not
So
at all.
let's head over to CNN. We'll take a look from the other side here, see what they're talking about. And again, remember, all these articles just came out today. This has been happening for 3 days with no comment from mainstream news, and then suddenly today, it's almost like they got approval. They're finally allowed to write about it because it's everywhere. I mean, Forbes came out with it, at Washington Post now, and they all came out this morning, June 11th, which I think is suspicious. That, you would think with a story this big, the mainstream would be scrambling to be the first one, with a story about it. And of course, nobody, apparently, they didn't have permission or something. Who knows?
Right,
so here we go. This is from CNN.com. The article's titled
You're
Seattle
gonna
Police.
go there already. Go for it.
What?
I was going to play the jingle one more time, but
You
can do it, bro. You can do it.
No.
Get in the zone. Capitol Hill Auto Zone. Chaz stinks.
Seattle police want to return to vacated precinct in what protesters call an autonomous zone. So there's going to be some repeat info here, but I'm just going to go all the way through the article. It's not too long, and there's some pictures that you can show. Seattle police want to resume operations at a downtown precinct they left empty as protesters began occupying the area around it. The area around the precinct is now occupied by protesters. Great writing, CNN.
Yeah,
Seattle
good
police
stuff.
want to resume operations at a downtown precinct they left empty as protesters began occupying the area around it. The area around the precinct is now occupied by protesters, some of whom are calling it the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. According to CNN affiliate Como, police boarded up the East Precinct building in the Capitol Hill neighborhood and left it unoccupied during protests over the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Protesters have also hung signs on the East Precinct, Como reported, some of which read Seattle People Department and the property of the people. But illegal. Her comments come as a response to Donald Trump's tweets earlier in the day. So you see CNN here, they jump right into the Trump thing right away here in the third paragraph or so. Fox didn't mention Trump until the very end. Her comments come as a response to President Donald Trump's tweets earlier in the day. President Trump had tweeted to Durkin and Washington Governor Jay Inslee, "Take back your city now. If you don't, do it. I will." But Durkin responded by saying, "One of the things this president will never understand is that listening to the community is not a weakness, it's a strength." Meanwhile, the Seattle police chief is openly criticizing city leaders for evacuating the 3rd Precinct building in the city's Capitol Hill district. Quote, "You should know leaving the precinct was not my decision," Police Chief Carmen Best said in a video addressed to the members of the department. The video was posted on the police department's YouTube page on Thursday. Chief Best added that the city had other plans for the Chief Best added that the city, quote, "had other plans for the building and relented to severe public pressure," and expressed her anger at how all this came about. She said officers spent days protecting the building before the city boarded it up. Earlier in a news conference Wednesday, Assistant Police Chief Deanna Nolet said, "We're trying to get a dialogue going so we can figure out a way to resolve this without unduly impacting the citizens and the businesses that are operating in the area." Officers are still responding to emergency calls in the area, Nolet told reporters. Nolet said police had received reports that protesters allegedly set up barricades, quote, "with some armed individuals running them as checkpoints into the neighborhood." Quote, "While they have a constitutionally protected right to bear arms, and while Washington is an open carry state, there is no legal right for those arms to be used to intimidate community members," Nolet said, adding that anyone subjected to these demands should call 911. "No one at these checkpoints has the legal authority to demand identification from anyone," he said. Nolet also said police have, quote, "heard anecdotally of residents and businesses being asked to pay a fee if they want to operate in the area. This is the crime of extortion," Nolet said. We feel incredibly strongly as a department that what happened to George Floyd was wrong and it was a crime, she said. We fully support efforts to improve police accountability and to work towards improved radical equality. On Thursday, Washington Governor Jay Inslee said the Capitol Hill protests were mostly peaceful, although unpermitted, and we should remember we are still in a pandemic. The area is largely peaceful, he said. Peaceful protests are fundamentally American, and I am hopeful there will be a peaceful resolution. Protesters in the area plan to stay as long as it takes to effect change, according to Como. Many said they wanted to defund the police department. One protester, identified only as Rooks, told Como that the protesters were not violent. Quote, "It's nothing aggressive or violent or nothing like that," Rooks said. "We didn't come out here for any of that. All we wanted was what is equal and what is right." Some residents and business owners said they were concerned, Como reported, but others weren't, like Christopher Dara, who lives nearby. "There's people having teach-ins, talks, political discussions," he said. Kate Van Petten, who works at a nearby coffee shop, told CNN affiliate Cairo that Chaz was an anti-racist zone and that her business has been supporting the movement. Quote, "We've been setting out free coffee for the protesters and doing everything we can to support them." The situation in Seattle has drawn the attention of President Trump, who tweeted Wednesday night that the city's mayor and Inslee are being taunted and played at a level that our great country has never seen before. "Take back your city now. If you don't do it, I will. These ugly anarchists must be stooped immediately," the president said, later adding that domestic terrorists have taken over Seattle, run by radical left Democrats, of course. So they got to talk about the same tweet twice in one article here. In response, Inslee told the president to stoop tweeting. He followed up Thursday saying that what we will not allow are threats of military violence against Washingtonians coming from the White House. Seattle officials say there is no indication the occupied area is being coordinated by left-wing groups under the umbrella of Antifa. Interesting. Quote, "City officials have not interacted with armed Antifa militants at this site, but will continue to be on site to monitor the situation closely," city spokeswoman Lori Patrick said in a statement. "It's unclear who is leading the protesters, Gons," but Nolet said Wednesday that police were working to find a point of contact to establish a line of communication. So there you go. You got two sides of the same coin there, both mentioning that there was some extortion going on with the businesses in the area, the demanding of identification from sort of vigilante armed guards at the borders of the autonomous zone. And doesn't look very fun to me, Guns. What do you think?
Yeah.
Stoop.
I don't know.
Make it stoop.
Make it stoop. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of I was seeing a lot of things on social media that seem to I guess people on the ground in that area saying that it's not violent. It's not. They're like a lot of the extortion stuff's not taking place, and I did see somebody say that the leader of this whole thing was committed suicide. Did you hear about that one?
Yeah, so I spent quite a bit of time researching that yesterday as well. And again, there was no mainstream sources. So there was the tweets and there was lots of social media chatter about this. Yeah. And not so many media outlets. The ones that I could find didn't seem, I don't know. They're just kind of like blogs, people's blogs writing about it. Right. Yeah. And it was another point. It was actually an unfortunate point against the group. Now, the reason why Antifa has been connected to this is because a known Antifa member was one of the leaders. And I think it was within 6 hours of the autonomous zone, getting set up, that they started calling out one of the leaders as a sexual predator. And this person is a trans woman lesbian.
Oh,
and
whoa. Hey, what?
right,
Hold on.
and so
I
there
can't
was a
even,
lot of.
I'm gonna have to chart that to figure out exactly
I know you can. Yeah,
what the
it's kinda- you
biological
gotta-
situation
I
is
know.
there. But go ahead. Keep
So
going.
as a
Sorry.
man who transitioned to a woman, but still
Is
is attracted to other
two
women.
women. So
Um,
she's a lesbian. Okay. All right.
yeah,
Got it.
I just
Got it.
it's easier to just say they now. I just it's
You're
hard to
so
keep track.
insensitive.
I
We're
know.
banned. We're gonna be
I
banned.
know. So they were called out 6 hours after the autonomous zone was set up, and there were a bunch of ex-girlfriends of this person coming out talking about how abusive this person was, and it ended with this leader, this anarchist leader, talking or posting about how they are a predator and they're never not going to be a predator, and so they're just going to peacefully end their own life. And I have not heard any updates on that. Again, in fact, really hard to find, the full breakdowns of the whole situation. You kind of have to go through a bunch of social media threads to do it, Twitter threads to find it.
And I got a couple
they hit
tweets.
trouble right away.
Yeah, and I got a couple tweets to just kind of give perspective from just random people here. I don't know the credibility of these posts here. I'm just sharing it, so please don't think that I'm advocating, because sometimes people don't get that. But this person said, for those wondering about the Chaz, this is from real sources inside the zone. There's also a stream on Facebook. Search Brandon Frost, see with your eyes. And it's like a whole list of things here. What's happening on Capitol Hill. And what was the thing that I wanted to point out? It has not been burnt down. I don't know who was reporting that it was burnt down, but then local businesses have not been terrorized or extorted, which is counter to what CNN was just reporting there.
Right.
They're not out of food. I did see that somebody tried to give them food or give the homeless food there, and it was all taken by the leaders.
Yeah, well, no, the homeless stole all the food. They had
the homeless stole the
collected
food.
a bunch. Yeah, they collected a bunch of food for the autonomous zone people,
Oh,
and then
okay,
they
so I had it
invited
backwards.
a bunch of the homeless in the area to feed them. And then apparently the homeless stole all of the food, so they didn't have any food for anybody.
Well, I don't blame the homeless there. No businesses do not have to pay protection money. No women are not being raped. Buildings are not being burned down. So I don't know. This is like IDs are not being checked. There is security because in case you had noticed, the Tangerine Terror has devoted 2 tweets and 1 whole new misspelling. So yeah, it's very anti-Trump with this thing.
Right.
I like that though. Tangerine Terror. That's a new way to describe him.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of like, I don't know. There's just so many different sides, and people on the ground there, obviously they're reporting it through social media, but it's more like with their own spin. And the thing that we always have to remember, we always mention it, is social media is only like a small, tiny sliver of reality, and it's reality, shaped by the person tweeting or sharing it on Facebook or whatever it is. So, it's not the whole picture there. And so it seems like it's less crazy and violent. Like once it was set up, it's just kind of there, and they're not really, I don't know what they're doing. They're watching movies and stuff.
Yeah, they set up a screen. They're watching documentaries and stuff in the street. Sounds fun. It's like a big sleepover.
Yeah, it is. It's a big party. Reuters Pictures posted some photos of people walking around and laying out across the grassy knoll, and I don't know. I mean, it seems very. On one hand, it's troubling, but on the other hand, I saw a few conservative types going like the communists are taking over, and it's like maybe it was instigated by that, but I don't see anything that's not yet anyway. Don't see anything that is like blatant, like a really uniform militia type of thing forming and that sort of thing. But there is a lot to be said. There's criticism for both ways is what I'm trying to say. That the ones that are saying, oh my gosh, this is a complete takeover, to the other side of like, oh no, this is just a peaceful way to try to defund the police. I think both sides are sort of exaggerating their claims.
Well,
what I'm
yeah,
trying to get at.
and that's the interesting thing about seeing the Fox and when you talk about Fox versus CNN, usually, you're talking about a left versus right paradigm on how things are reported. Both the CNN and the Fox articles, kind of the point there, I meant to make a bigger point at the time, but I forgot. I got too into reading it. They're almost identical. And they almost have the identical spin. So what this is identifying is that this is almost not even a left-right paradigm issue. What you're seeing is a mainstream control paradigm versus, organic stuff coming from social media. Because usually when you pick out one story, this is why we read from multiple different angles, is because you can see the differences in the spin that each outlet puts on it. But both CNN and Fox posted almost the identical article with identical spin. So what you're seeing here is that mainstream in general, they waited 3 days to report on one of the, really, it's a pretty dang big story. But they waited 3 days to report on it. And then when they report on it, for some reason, which almost never happens, you have CNN and Fox in lockstep with each other. So I think that they were barred from writing about it for 3 days. And then the paradigm we're seeing is mainstream, control mechanism versus basically everybody else. They're not trying to start a fight about if this is right or wrong. They're towing the same exact line. And, of course, they're a mainstream control apparatus. So they don't want the people getting any funny ideas about, if this is a good idea or not.
Yeah. Well, we have another story from hotair.com.
Get in the zone. Capitol Hill Auto Zone. Chaz stinks.
And this one, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone has already had its first incident of self-appointed police violence.
Yeah.
This was published on the 10th, which was yesterday.
There you go. Institutionalization, man. It only took 2 days.
2 days. Earlier today, Allah Pundit, is that an Islamic outlet?
Kind of seems like it. Real quick, Gons, before you continue, I just want to mention all you YouTubers, our numbers are a little low over on Twitch today. So if somebody wants to do us a favor, if a good handful of you over on YouTube could please head to twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. We want to try to get our numbers up over there. It's going to help out the show quite a bit and unlock a bunch of cool new tools for us. So just as a favor, if some of you YouTube people would switch over to Twitch, that'd be really helpful.
Sweet. Earlier today, Allah Pundit wrote about the so-called Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, Chaz, which was set up in Seattle after police retreated from a few square blocks. The denizens of this new experiment in police-free living were probably envisioning a utopia full of peace and community love. Instead, they got a new self-appointed police force led by a rapper named Raz Simone. And I can't get past the fact that Chaz is run by Raz.
Get in the zone. Capitol Hill Auto Zone. Chaz stinks.
You always know when we have a new jingle that we like because we'll play it 13 times in a
50
row.
times. Early this morning, someone posted a video clip to Reddit which shows Simone and a group of people confronting a graffiti artist. Things escalate, and eventually the tagger is assaulted by someone in the group and has his phone taken away. The video is about an hour long, but here's a summary created by someone in the Reddit thread. Too long didn't watch. TLDW. Man was tagging over someone else's art. Raz and group approach and separate him from crowd, chasing him for 2 blocks. He begins to film them with his phone. They take it from him. He tries to get it back, and they attack him, kicking him in the head and breaking his glasses. At one point, Raz threatens to shoot the man. They then begin to gaslight him that it was all his fault. Audio only for most of the end because woman in Raz's crew filming puts the phone in her pocket while the stream continues. Someone else created this timeline of significant moments in the video. I verified that this is roughly accurate, though some of the wording is slightly different than the actual video. And I don't know if we have to necessarily go through the back and forth here of the confrontation. But yeah, there was just a little bit of tension, glasses breaking, and, whole deal.
Yeah.
Eventually, the victim of the assault did get his phone back and stuck around for a conversation, quote unquote, which, according to Raz Simone, solved everything. Here's a brief portion of the video, followed by Raz Simone's claim that everything ended with hugs and apologies. And there's a video here at the whole story 6 tweeting out this I guess peace moment. And then Raz Simone actually responded to the tweet, and he said, "This actually went beautifully, and we all hugged it out and spoke with his dad. His dad now wants me to mentor him. It was great black dialogue and men apologizing to each other, abandoning pride. We all hugged each other, cried it out, and it was beautiful." Not everyone is convinced this, quote, went beautifully. Some in the Reddit thread point out that this isn't so different from the kind of law enforcement violence protesters have been protesting about. And somebody posted, Raz is becoming the very thing people didn't want to begin with. And others are suggesting Simone is a de facto warlord. Who is Raz Simone, and who is he and his crew accountable to? Anyone? Are they de facto authority here now? If so, doesn't that basically make them warlords? And you can watch the full clip for yourself. Most of the action happens via audio. While criminal justice front of Chaz doesn't seem to be going very well, here's a list of demands made by the organizers. It includes abolishing police and the courts and refers to the Seattle PD as a terrorist cell. And it says in the quote here, the Seattle Police Department and attached court system are beyond reform. We do not request reform. We demand abolition. We demand that the Seattle Council and the member defund and abolish the Seattle Police Department and the attached criminal justice apparatus. This means 100% of funding, including existing pensions for Seattle Police. We demand decriminalization of the acts of protest and amnesty for protesters generally, but specifically those involved in what has been termed, quote, the George Floyd Rebellion against terrorist cell that previously occupied this area known as Seattle Police Department. Those are strong words there. We've all seen this before, sadly, if you were around when the Occupy protests were a thing. They also believed they had created a new utopia of equality for everyone to emulate. And then it became clear that people were being assaulted, threatened, and even raped inside the camps. The lead camp in Zuccotti Park even set up a woman-only tent in an effort to protect women from sexual assault. But hey, I'm sure the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone will work out great. Instead of all the messy due process and police, we'll just have an unarmed rapper and his guys wandering around smacking and threatening to kill people who get on their nerves. What could possibly go wrong?
All right.
That's hotair.com. So yeah, there you go.
Did you read through the timeline of the video?
I did. Well, I didn't because I didn't think it was necessary to really do it. If you want to go through it, you can.
I thought it was interesting. Yeah, I'll just zoom through it real quick because they're at the end. They're trying to talk about how peaceful it was and how they handled the situation so well and things that. But just to go through, I'll just go through the quotes of the timeline of the video. There's a quote, "We are the police of this community now." That was Raz saying that. Then he says, "For your own safety, you need to go." Seems like a thinly veiled threat there. "You might need a little love tap," a cutesy way of describing early. Okay. Then at 11 minutes, the video blacked out as the conflict heats up. Then someone starts yelling, "What the F?" For reasons unclear. Based on later context, this appears to be when most of the assault occurred. May have involved kicking. Definitely broke his glasses. At 13 minutes, "Give me your phone and sit down. You just broke my glasses. I'm blind. If you don't sit down, I'll make you sit down. You just broke my glasses and stole my phone. You just broke my glasses. Yeah, we should have broken your face," in response.
Wow.
"Don't be making no threats. N-word, I'll blow your brains out." That was
Nice.
Raz talking to this guy. So, yeah, I don't know how peaceful and nice it was, but this is exactly what we're talking about, the institutionalization of these autonomous zones. And, yeah, when there's a power vacuum, somebody's going to step in and fill it. That's just human nature. It's been happening for thousands of years.
Well, George Orwell, the author of 1984, also wrote that book, Animal Farm. It's very similar.
Oh, yeah.
It was about the
Yeah, it's basically the exact story talking
I mean,
about.
it's literally, the pigs stage a revolution with the rest of the animals to take over the humans because the humans are taking advantage of all the animals. And
Right.
it's a very powerful, speech the old pig gives, telling the chickens, like, you're only good for food and eggs and your life is over and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But then at the end, the pigs basically took over the house, and all the rest of the animals, the horses and everything else that helped in the revolution, they were left outside. So, it's kind of a similar situation here where it's, just let's take over. We're going to take over this area that is, for the purposes of freedom and equality and all this kind of stuff, and the police. But instead, you got people running around saying that they are the police now. So
yeah,
great.
Well, I wanted to actually take the moment because as returning listeners will remember, when we reported on the community patrols going on in Minneapolis, I was
Right.
very enthusiastic about that. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
take the opportunity, and I still am enthusiastic about that. And I was talking to some people in real life about the difference between the community patrols getting set up in Minneapolis and why I think that is awesome, and this autonomous zone, and why I don't think the autonomous zone is very awesome. Just as a refresher for those who didn't catch the episode, in Minneapolis there, the black community has been putting together community patrols, armed community patrols, patrolling their own neighborhood because of the lack of police presence. Now, in Minneapolis, most of the police are, engaged in other things like controlling protests and riots and things like that. And so there was a lack of police manpower to continue keeping, protecting people, responding to 911 calls and things like that. For, crime is still going on, it's still a city in America. So black community members armed themselves legally and started patrolling their own streets in small groups, specifically to protect their neighbors from any would-be, criminals that would take advantage of the fact that police are all tied up with protests and riots and things. And, that where we have American citizens legally armed, protecting their neighborhoods and their neighbors, I'm all for that. I called it a libertarian paradise. Now, I'm not saying that that's a long-term solution. I'm not saying that that's a perfect system. I don't necessarily think that should or would continue as the main source of protection for their neighborhoods. But in the situation where their city is, burning in many cases, and there's no police to respond to 911 calls, that's an okay way to go. That's American citizens practicing their Second Amendment rights for the right reasons. Now, the autonomous zone in Seattle, this is a little different. They're forcibly, pushed the police out of a neighborhood where, in a lot of cases, it isn't the people doing this don't live in that neighborhood. They're coming from other places and occupying this area. So that, first of all, is uncool, and they forcibly, pushed the police out of the area and took over the buildings and, all sorts of stuff like that, trying to set up their own government. Whereas in Minneapolis, it's just citizens trying to protect their neighbors and their property. In Seattle is a whole different ball game, and I don't think these things can be compared to one another. I mean, they can be compared, but they're not the same thing, not even close. So, in this autonomous zone, you've got a vacuum of power that's leading to, similar types of brutality that they were fighting against, which always happens. And it's not a long-term solution. Now, even if I take a moment and speak from the best I can, the perspective of, this fight for equality going on across the world right now. In Minneapolis, these were black people protecting black neighborhoods. Okay? These were the people who stand to gain or lose the most from this entire thing, protecting themselves in a moment where, police are not available to them. In Seattle, it's mostly a bunch of white kids who pushed out the police, don't want the police, and are guarding the borders of this autonomous zone and asking for IDs and, trying to, again, anecdotally, trying to set up their own tax structure by extorting businesses and stuff. These two situations are completely different. And, I think it's important to note that. Because especially for the longevity of whatever they're trying to do, this Seattle autonomous zone is not going to last. Whereas in the Minneapolis, citizen patrols, that's actually kind of a very American way to go about it. And, trying to actually keep the peace instead of start a revolution. Again, back to the longevity part of it, the Minneapolis community patrols, not that I don't think that that's going to become the norm there, but it's a much better example of moving forward versus the autonomous zone, which is basically anarchy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's so much on all sides, there's so many different opinions about this whole thing. But in terms of what you're saying with Minnesota and the difference here, I don't know. I feel like that. Well, obviously it's different. Like I agree with you 100% that these are two different situations. One is more of citizens protecting their neighborhood. This is more taking over a whole precinct and demanding and all this kind of stuff. I actually watched somebody posted on YouTube, only had a couple hundred views, so I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but it was an interview, kind of an impromptu phone interview with Chaz, Raz. Raz in Chaz, and he was talking about how he doesn't have a gun, but he has a holster, and how the interviewer, or just whoever this guy was, just some random guy, I think, and he basically asked Raz, hey, so you guys put out a list of demands. What are you guys going to secede if the demands are met? And his whole response was like, well, we're just there's different people that want different things. There's no solidarity. There's not like one agreed upon message here. Everyone's kind of got their own agenda. We just want to start the conversation with the people that the authorities basically. So it was very interesting. That was kind of like, okay, so there's no unanimous message going on from the leader,
right?
Like what? Yeah. So what exactly are you guys trying to accomplish? And I think the guy asked him that, and he was just like, oh, we just want to raise awareness, and it was kind of like the protesters' line of thinking, like we want to bring equality and bring awareness and that kind of thing, and part of it. I'll have to, maybe I'll find the clip, but basically he said that like, oh, I think we've done that job. We've raised awareness. We're letting people know about the injustices and this and that and whatever. But it's mostly peaceful, and we want to have the conversation and so it was very different from the situation that took place. But maybe after this whole thing here where he chased the guy and he's caught on video, threatening a guy, breaking his glasses and taking away his phone and basically being the de facto police,
right?
Police brutality-ish type of thing going on. Maybe he's like, that's not the right move and they need to back off. I don't know. It was just a very different type of response from like, yeah, we just want to have a conversation. It's very peaceful. I look, I have a holster. I have no gun because I don't want to incite violence. But then I want to smash your face. With this guy he doesn't agree with.
Some mixed messages there.
Mixed messages going on, Raz. Come on, Raz. Get it together.
Get in the zone. Capitol Hill Auto Zone. Chaz stinks.
And
all right, yeah. You want to do one more little thing about this?
Yeah, just real quick because we're talking about other parts of the country, perhaps using this as a model to make their own auto zones. This is RT.com. And of course, this is a Russian outlet, but we're just going to report it from here because this was one of the ones that I saw that was interesting. Watch, Portland protesters abandon their own failed police-free autonomous zone. So they failed, Portland, Basil. Yeah. They failed in Portland.
Oh, no.
As they abandoned their own improvised autonomous zone before it had been established, which is really funny because all the same people that were like, down when Trump was doing the wall thing, and they were like, "Oh, yeah. What's with the walls, man?" And they're all using fences to try to create the autonomous zone.
Build bridges, not walls. Yeah, and then they start putting up fences. Yeah.
Haphazard, spontaneous construction of the autonomous zone began during demonstration on Wednesday night as protesters erected their own barbed wire fences appropriated from city authorities, following sporadic clashes with police. So city authorities are just giving it to him? Anyway, there's some bunch of tweets here. Police used stun grenades, rubber bullets, and other crowd-controlled munitions to try and prevent protesters from destroying and repurposing sections of chain-link fence outside of Multnomah County Justice Center. Last week, a federal judge issued a temporary restraining order blocking police from using tear gas against protesters. Despite the protesters' best efforts, however, the line did not hold. And by the early hours of Thursday morning, they had abandoned their dream of setting up another autonomous police-free zone.
I like this. Somebody pointed out in the chat, but them putting up fences around their autonomous zone, it's more like caging themselves in rather than keeping other people out.
It is, truly. It was the 14th consecutive night of anti-racism and police brutality protests in Portland in the aftermath of George Floyd's death. Thousands of people thronged the city parks, bridges, and streets with various forms of protest, including a skateboard march.
Ooh.
Cool.
Radical, dude.
Sweet, guys. I can't think of a more white way to protest their equality. Since the protest began, Portland has selected a new police chief, and Mayor Ted Wheeler has vowed to redirect at least $7 million of police funding to help communities of color, with the final city budget vote to be held Thursday evening. And so there you go. It's creating, and this is going to be, for one side of the conversation here, it's going to be, oh, look at the police state. They won this time. It's that whole division, right. The right-left paradigm, the equality versus the totalitarian state narrative. It's all very divisive. The divide and conquer play here. And at least for this in Portland.
It always works, man. It
always works. Always. Because it forces people to take a side, Oh, you're for the police? You're a Nazi. Yeah, you're for the BLM, whatever. You're a communist. It's like, oh my gosh.
It's been interesting to watch how, because that's been happening, we've been pointing that out.
Yeah, that's been happening
increasingly over the past, 4 years, but mostly rhetorically and politically.
Right.
What we're seeing now is a physical manifestation of that same division, which is pretty interesting. It's sort of moved into the physical realm.
It's funny because I mentioned on Twitter how what we're seeing with a lot of the protesting in general, I guess social media was sort of not transparent, but a digital protesting space over the years as it developed, especially like Twitter, right? People are just posting stuff and sharing stuff, but now it's gone back onto the streets. And with the context of social media, it's pretty funny to think about. Everyone holding signs thinking it's going to change anybody's mind about it, and walking around yelling at each other. It's basically social media out in the streets now, but with, fists and rubber bullets and all the physical things there.
Right.
So, if it's not going to change anybody's mind through social media, I don't see how it's going to really do a whole lot with all these protesters holding up signs, and a lot of derogatory signs too, by the way, from both sides. But a lot of the BLM crowd, I'm seeing a lot of things that are pretty inflammatory, things that aren't necessary when you're trying to actually be peaceful. We're peacefully protesting, but your sign says like "F the police," down with the whole system.
Well,
it's
that is an interesting distinction, and I'm just going to follow their own logic, because within this, part of the sort of education or the re-education is that words are violence. Lots of things are violence. Violence is being sort of redefined in a lot of ways, in order to serve the purposes of racial equality and stuff like that, where, punching somebody in the face doesn't have to be violence. There's lots of rhetorical or verbal ways to be violent. And yeah, if you compare that same logic to a lot of the signs and the chants and the shouts and things you hear during protests, and I'll just say protests, don't even need to bring rioters and looters into this. Just protesting, if words are violence, then if you're using violent words, then it's not a non-violent protest. I can tell, some people might get mad at me for that or whatever, but I'm just following the same logic here.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into some of the cancel culture type of stuff that would play on the words are violent side of the conversation.
Right.
Because there is a consequence for what you say nowadays, and that example A being the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel being demonetized for whatever we said, whatever it is we said, for harmful content.
Yes.
So there you go.
So
we're harmful.
The truth is harmful.
The truth is
to those
harmful.
in power, Gons.
Well, especially Jesus followers. He didn't come to bring peace, but a sword.
That's right. That's right.
The word. So, do you want to quickly do a quick Twitch shout out, just briefly, because we spent a really long time on that first part there. And,
we did. That was a little longer than expected.
To
So let's take a very, very quick break. Don't go anywhere, anybody, because we've got some very important updates on cancel culture you're going to want to be apprised of. But before that, let's take a very quick break.
Break time.
It's break time!
Come on, take a break. Okay, I want to give a big old shout out to some Twitch followers. If you are still over on YouTube or Facebook or someplace, Gons, why don't you drop the Twitch link in there? For some reason, Twitch numbers are a little low today. I would appreciate it if numbers are regular. We have
but it's technically not a show day,
Yeah, that's true. People didn't plan on it. So if you're watching anywhere around the internet, why don't you head over, click on the Twitch link we just threw in chat, and watch on Twitch. It really helps us climb the charts over there, and helps spread the show. We get the show in front of more eyeballs. But I want to thank some of our Twitch followers here. I'm going to go real quick. So Gonz, ready to ding your dinger?
Got my dinger.
Okay, here we go. I want to thank these new followers. First of all, Hog Jim.
Ooh, Hog Jim.
Thank you very much. Be Good Broadcast. That's right. We got Tacticus79.
Ooh, I like that. Tacticus.
Yeah. I'm N2C.
Like the ocean sea, or like to see things with your eyes?
SEE. See with your eyeballs.
See. Ooh.
Oh, this one's good. We got Mom with a Sword and Shield.
Ooh. Don't want to mess with that, Mom. We're still waiting for the mom jingle, by the way. Anybody?
Nobody sent us a mom jingle yet. We need the mom jingle to do more mom stories. Okay. Ohio Lobo.
Oh, Lobo.
Thank you very much.
I remember
Lobo.
I used to read the Lobo comic book, not the best for young kids.
It's a wolf.
Do you know about Lobo, the comic?
Nope.
Pretty intense. All right.
Okay.
Keep going. Sorry.
Well, more about that in the comic book segment. New follower, Legendary Rakshasa. Super dope all the time. That's a fun username. Super dope all the time. Tess Mandar. Oh, this is nice. We got Baby Boomer 1964.
I like the baby boomers.
We got boomers, man. Once Android.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
like Pinocchio? Like once
I don't know.
now human?
We got new follower, Synagogue of Hayton. Yikes. We got Thwetner. Thank you, Thwetner. This one's fun, Gons. We got Joe Biden. No, let me start over. Joe Biden Times. Creative. We got Christine B. 333.
Up Christine B.
We got Gare Bear.
Gare Bear.
We got
Is that the Gare Bear?
Paranormal. I don't know.
Very normal.
Paranormal. Aphotic Solus.
Sounds intense.
Yeah. Control your donkey. Curvitash.
Artash.
We got Camila 10. Thank you very much, Camila 10. We got Dr. Keynes. We got Space Trog.
Oh my gosh, so many.
I know, we're almost done. Wait, are we almost done? Hold on. I'm going to have to say, oh my gosh, so many new followers. Yes, we're almost done. All right,
Okay.
almost done. John Fu Master. Wait, I already read. No,
You already read John
So-
Fu Master, didn't you?
I know.
No?
I did. I messed up. Here we go. Big Blue Fan 7. And lastly, Red Light Runner.
All right.
Stay safe out there, Red Light Runner.
Yeah.
Be careful, buddy.
Don't.
Yeah.
That's not a good.
And then I want to give a
strategy.
shout out to somebody in the chat, Manny J Plays.
AJ Plays.
Hey, shout out to you. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Lefty
Okay.
Neuro Productions wanted a shout out from YouTube. So there you go, buddy. Lefty Neuro
There you go.
Productions. Been subbed
Lefty
for
Neuro
years.
Productions.
Or yours. WERS. Yours.
Yours.
Yours. All
Okie
right.
dokie. There we go. There's our Twitch shout outs and some YouTube shout outs. Thank you all for following and watching on Twitch. It's really the best place for us for you to watch the show. So if you can find it in your heart to break away from YouTube for just a second, they demonetized us. They who knows what they're going to do to us sometime soon. So even as a backup plan, you're going to want to follow us on Twitch because you never know when the broadcast will stop going to YouTube, and then you'll just be lost. You'll think that we don't broadcast, and we will be, and we want you to catch the show. So go to twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. If you can watch there now, that would be super helpful. But definitely do it as a backup plan because you never know when we're going to disappear off of YouTube. Susan Wojcicki. We've lost our graces. We've fallen out of graces with Susan Wojcicki over there.
Oh, no.
CEO of YouTube.
Like the
I
real
know.
one or the one or our Susan Wojcicki?
The real one. What do you
Oh,
mean? There's
okay.
not two different ones. Susan Wojcicki loves watching us on Twitch, but I have not seen her recently. And I have not seen her since we got demonetized on YouTube. So there you go.
Maybe
Who knows?
maybe
We
she
gotta-
was the mole
maybe.
by as
Maybe.
herself. not really secretive there, Susan. We should pray
Yeah,
for Susan.
okay, Guns. Okay, let's get back
Okay.
into the stories. What do you say?
Let's do it. New jingle.
Hashtag cancel culture.
This isn't I don't have the full story here, but this is Wall Street Journal. And we'll go through a bunch of the cancel culture stuff that's been happening. Adidas tweeted against racism. Its black workers say that isn't enough.
Oh,
Yeah. Companies from Adidas, AG to Estée Lauder, Co's face pressure from employees to do more to confront racism and promote diversity as social activism over the killing of George Floyd moves deeper into the workplace. And I really can't, well, I can read a little bit more here. Following the killing of Mr. Floyd last month, Adidas, like many brands, took to social media to speak out against racism. Yet, some black employees at the company's U.S. offices say the corporate culture at the German company is far from equitable. Those sentiments were echoed at other companies in recent days. And that's all I can read without signing up to the Wall Street Journal.
so is
they don't wanna
Adidas
do.
canceled now?
I don't think Adidas is canceled, but I do have this tweet. I thought it was a very interesting tweet because back on, what day was this? May 29th, they, imagine this, Adidas retweeted a Nike post
What?
Nike, yeah, isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Nike posted, let's all be part of change, hashtag until we all win. And it's got a little video, 7.5 million views. And Adidas retweeted it and said, together is how we move forward. Together is how we make change. That's a big, for Adidas to retweet Nike. I thought that was like crazy.
Such unity.
Not enough. I know.
They're sending a message.
I know that is unity, but no, not enough. And I wish I knew what the stipulations were there. Like what does Adidas need to do? You know, they already have, they have athletes, black athletes that make millions off of their product. I don't know. I'm not sure what they're supposed to do, but none of this makes any sense, which we decided to not include a couple different stories, including a pastor that got canceled, a UCLA professor that got canceled, and I mean, just
the pastor being canceled was intense. He liked a couple of Trump tweets. Somebody from his community, I don't think from the church, but spread the fact around. They scanned his Twitter and found some tweets that he liked from President Trump, and they were holding church in a high school, and because he liked the tweets, they kicked him out of the high school. A big church too. They said he couldn't have church in the high school. They couldn't run any ministry programs in the low-income housing districts. And apparently this church did a lot of great stuff for the community. They did free health clinics and free COVID testing and free, food ministries and social work. And because the pastor liked a couple Trump tweets, they kicked him out of all of it. They're not letting him care for people. They're not letting the ministries, the food ministries go. They're not letting the social work or the health care. They're just totally shut down. They won't let them even go into the housing projects or anything. Pretty crazy. And again, another example of sort of opposite day.
Yeah. And the UCLA story was similar because the professor, a white professor, basically said he's not going to give, special favors or just leeway for black students, especially ones that felt like they were affected with the whole George Floyd murder situation. And so canceled. Leave. You're not welcome here.
Is he fired?
I think so. I think he was, he was suspended either way.
Suspended, right?
Yeah. But
well, Gons, have you ever done CrossFit? Are you a CrossFit junkie?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of CrossFit, but yeah.
Have you done
Hashtag cancel culture.
I was a competitive swimmer, Basil. Everything was CrossFit. Anytime we did anything on land was considered
what
CrossFit.
CrossFit is. So this is NBC News. CrossFit CEO stepped down after inflammatory George Floyd comments. So I don't know. If you're in the chat, you're into CrossFit, let us know. I've gone to a CrossFit class. Not for me. A little too intense. I didn't have the winning attitude to to fit in.
I like Nitro FZ1. Same as cross-dresser? Is that what's happening?
No, CrossFit? That's different. The article reads, the founder and CEO of CrossFit, who has come under fire for tweets about the death of George Floyd and public health orders surrounding the coronavirus, announced his retirement Tuesday. Quote, on Saturday, I created a rift in the CrossFit community and unintentionally hurt many of its members. Greg Glassman, who started the fitness company, said in a statement announcing his retirement. Glassman responded to a tweet Saturday by the Institution for Health Metrics and Evaluation that called racism and discrimination, quote, critical public health issues that demand an urgent response. Glassman responded, it's Floyd-19. Your failed model quarantined us, and now you're going to model a solution to racism, he tweeted in a follow-up. George Floyd's brutal murder sparked riots nationally. Quarantine alone is accompanied in every age quarantine alone is accompanied in every age and under all political regimes by an undercurrent of suspicion, distrust, and riots. Thanks. And booyah, you Reebok, a major sponsor and affiliated gyms, dropped their partnership with CrossFit after the tweets. Gyms across the United States, as well as places like malls and theaters, were ordered closed amid the coronavirus pandemic, and public health warnings being in close quarters can spread the disease. Okay, now they're just telling me what coronavirus is and who Floyd is, which we already know. The CrossFit on Sunday evening tweeted what it said was a statement from its CEO that read, listen to that, CrossFit on Sunday evening tweeted what it said was a statement from its CEO. So calling into question whether or not this is from the CEO. I, CrossFit HQ, and the CrossFit community will not stand for racism. I made a mistake by the words I chose yesterday. My heart is deeply saddened by the pain it has caused. It was a mistake, not racist, but a mistake. Not racist, okay. Quote, I was trying to stick it to the IHMEUW for their invalidated models, resulting in needless economy-wrecking, life-wrecking lockdown. And when I saw they were announcing modeling a solution for our racial crisis, I was incredulous, angry, and overly emotional. Involving George Floyd's name in that effort was wrong. So there you go. Anyways, CrossFit's canceled, Gons, forever.
No, the CrossFit's not canceled, but this guy's canceled and he retired. So, I mean, retiring. I think he's an older gentleman anyway, so he's probably like, just retire. We're good.
Yeah, the dude is super rich. Actually, I've seen some other articles about him, not related to this, but very interesting fella. And depending who you're talking to, either awesome or sinister.
Right.
But that's not what we do on this show. So
as our most, yeah. But yeah, I mean, not surprising. You can get canceled. You can get you lose your job by liking a tweet or by sharing thoughts that go against the status quo. I mean, this is part of the reason
2020 Gons.
I know it's part of the reason why we're so grateful for all of our producers out there, because, I mean, do you think Basil and I can ever get a real job doing anything based on the things we've said on air for the last 10 years? Like, all anybody has to do is go listen to our show and be like, no.
Tinfoil hat wearers. But you know what? The point is, Gons, that nobody could. Like, if you go deep enough into anybody's social media history, nobody's innocent.
Right.
Depending on how the intensity of what you want to, pick out, but even just liking a tweet will get you canceled. So, it's just another part of the problem, the cancel culture problem, which is, we're holding people to standards. We're holding people's past worthless in their current position because they don't hold, an idea that you also hold. Now, of course, there's varying degrees of this and varying degrees of people who deserve to get canceled. But, this is a complicated matter, Gonzo.
Yeah, well, at least with some of these, with the tweets, it's like, all right, fine. You said something that was inflammatory for some people and it offended people, and step away. Okay, whatever. But this next story, I don't know.
Hashtag cancel culture.
This one makes a lot less sense to me. And again, I can't read the whole story because it's another Wall Street Journal article. Thank you, Wall Street Journal, for
we got to stop getting Wall Street Journal articles.
I know. HBO Max pulls Gone with the Wind while Cops gets canceled.
Yeah.
Gone with the Wind was pulled from HBO Max while a long-time running show Cops was outright canceled. Again, I'm not going to really get into it. But Basil, you brought up a point that was pretty interesting about Gone with the Wind being canceled.
Yes. Yeah, a couple interesting things. So, of course, if you've seen Gone with the Wind, it takes place during the Civil War era, where people had slaves and were fighting, to keep slaves, things like that, obviously. Nobody needs to be told that slavery is bad. I mean, we all know that. But Gone with the Wind being canceled. And, some people are up in arms about this because it's a classic movie and stuff like that. That doesn't even bother me necessarily. I don't know. It's it's an old movie. It's a classic. It's won all sorts of awards. But the backwards thing about this, Gons, is that Gone with the Wind was responsible for the very first African American woman winning an Oscar. So,
winning or being nominated? Was it just nominated or winning?
Nominated
winning
and winning. In 1939, Hattie McDaniel, she played the maid. The African American. I'm assuming she was a slave. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but she played a maid and won an Oscar. Very first African American woman to win an Oscar. And now, of course, we're taking down the movie that was. A pivotal moment for black people in Hollywood. So
makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Well, the other part of it, the cops thing, people are already mentioning it in the chat, but cops defunded, police reality shows canceled after 33 seasons.
33 seasons. There you go. The magic number, everybody. What are they trying to tell us?
Yeah, I mean, just the whole idea of cops canceled, cops defunded, cops canceled,
very
defund
funny.
The police, it's very appropriate with the language control going on with everything else happening.
Yeah,
so.
Of course. I watched Cops when I was a kid. I haven't seen it. I actually didn't even know that they were still making them. But it was always fun to watch. But looking back, I mean, the cops on that show treated everybody horribly. I mean, that's part of the fun of the show is you watch people getting beat up and chased and attacked by dogs, and it's fun when you don't think about it, but then you start thinking about it, and it's pretty wild how that's just been a show anybody can watch on television. Just get to watch a bunch of police brutality for fun.
Well, maybe
which
that's
is kind
why,
of what people are doing now with the
social
media stuff.
Well, it's social media before social media, but that's the whole point is that, people have this complaint about police brutality. Well, yeah, there was a show on TV for 33 years that basically showed, and I know that it wasn't always physically violent, but of course the crew were always looking for
put in a heartwarming story of somebody changing their life in there somewhere.
Right. But it was always the best episodes. The memorable ones were always the one where there's a chase and guy gets tackled and it's a whole struggle and the more action there was, the better. Because it's Hollywood. So of course people are gonna think there's this crazy police brutality situation. Sure. And look, police brutality is a problem. I'm not saying it's not a problem, but I'm saying that the perception of the reality of how bad it really is heightened or intensified with a show like Cops. And
there's a podcast that came out a couple years ago called, what was it called? Running from Cops. It was a whole series, a podcast series from sort of an NPR type. I forget who it was, but it was very interesting. And it went through the history of the show Cops, which is sort of shady. But it also went through, there's another show. I didn't know about this. I saw somebody mention it in the chat called Live PD, which is basically, I think it's made by the same guy who made Cops, but it's basically just another cops show. And just really sketchy stuff with these shows and, affecting people's lives forever. Because a lot of these people, they actually end up going to court and they, aren't convicted, but they're famous. They're on TV. Everybody in the country saw them get, chased down and attacked by a dog, and they can never get a job. They can never, their lives are ruined because they were on Cops. And there's all sorts of very manipulative things going on with the releases, the media releases, allowing cops to use their images. Because, of course, you can't just film criminals and put it on TV for a show like Cops. You have to get them to sign a paper to allow cops to air the footage. And they would tell these people like, oh, if you sign this release and let us show this, you'll get a reduced sentence, or we'll let you go, or something like that. And they would just lie to them. And, a lot of these people had their lives ruined by the show, who were actually ended up being innocent and stuff. So pretty nasty whole concept for as far as television production and the back end of the whole thing. Pretty sinister situation with live PD and cops.
I'm trying to figure out what kind of advertisers cops had. Because that'd be interesting what kind of people funded the show, or at least funded the airing of the show.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can't find anything on my quick search here. But anyway, yeah, the bigger thing being that more canceling going on. Some of it warranted, some of it not. But certainly, it's interesting how there's the Freemasonic 33 imprint and the show Cops being something. Yeah, most people probably don't need a show like Cops in their life anyway. Whereas Gone with the Wind,
well, you don't need it because you just go on Facebook now.
Well, you go on Facebook now, but it was really
brutality you want.
But if you think about shows like Cops, or what was the other one that was very popular, America's Funniest Home Videos, things like that.
Yeah,
it was basically social media before social media. It was
right.
Showing the funny videos and whatever, the clips and whatnot. So it was all that before the internet, and it set up the internet. I think it set up the internet culture, so there's no need for it anymore.
Yeah, it at least whetted the appetite for what social media was about.
Right.
Speaking of which, speaking of social media, do you ever feel like you're being watched?
Did you ever have the feeling that you were being watched?
Always.
This is from
especially right now.
Do you want to read this one? Do you have a thing on this article?
Not really. You can go for it. I'll do the next one.
Zoom through it here. Okay. ZeroHedge.com. FBI combing through social media after people openly brag about looting on Facebook. I told you about the guy on my Facebook, right?
Yeah, the guy that was selling phones
I mentioned
or whatever.
It on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a guy who's got stacks of Air Jordans and iPhones, and all of his profile pictures are of just stacks of money. And it was the day after the protests started, he started putting up pictures of a bunch of iPhones and trying to sell sneakers and stuff. I'm like,
who are you hanging out with, Basil? Who are your Facebook friends?
I don't know, man. I don't know really anybody on my Facebook, and most of them are listeners of the show. So if I see we have a mutual friend, I'll just let them follow me because, whatever. There you go. Got to follow your favorite podcaster on Facebook. Anyways, so yeah, I got one of these guys. I've yet to buy an iPhone from him. But here we go. FBI combing through social media after people openly brag about looting on Facebook. Anyone logging into social media lately has likely noticed a seeming deluge of virtue signaling related to the ongoing Black Lives Matter and George Floyd protests. Often the same people, blah, blah, blah. Get to the looting here. Here we go. But a CBS Chicago affiliate has uncovered something truly new. People are now openly bragging about what they've looted from ravaged stores on Facebook over the past 2 weeks of BLM protests and riots. Apparently, they're even trying to sell the stolen goods. Quote, selling looted goods on Facebook, CBS 2 found it's happening right now with several videos and photos sent our way. The CBS 2 report begins. We went I got to make my font bigger. I'm getting old. Here we go. We sent the evidence to Chicago police, and on Monday night, CBS 2's Tara Molina looked into what will happen next, with the CPD and the FBI investigating. Apparently, the FBI is now involved, seeking to identify individuals involved in mass looting. And judging by the fact that many are outright boasting about it under their names on social media, federal agents and local police may have an easy time of rounding them up and making arrests. The report goes on to describe that in some cases, individuals in Chicago have had their looting posts go viral. One woman posted a Facebook Live video publicly on Sunday, May 31st, and it got about 6,600 views and 41 shares. It showed looting at a strip mall and a van filled to the brim. In a second public Facebook Live video posted days later, a woman stands behind the videos and photos posted on her page, admitting out loud that she had looted. She had called she called out the people tagging police in the video and defended her selling of the looting clothing and liquor, referring to it as Okay, I'm sorry. She called out the people tagging police in the video and defended her selling of the looted clothing and liquor, referring to it as stolen and saying it wasn't the first time. Quote, I don't give no expletives about this other expletive. I upload stolen expletive 365 a year. She is heard saying, this ain't expletive first time I did this. Likely, the above person has already had a knock on the door and may regret going viral with their post in the first place. CBS 2 actually aired some of the incriminating Facebook live stream images this week, seeking public help in the live stream. So there you go. Long story short, don't post about your looting on Facebook, you dummies. That's just 101. That's 101 criminal behavior. You don't tell the police about your crime.
There was I think it was a fake piece of footage, but I'm not 100% sure. But early on, there was footage of, I think it was either the FBI or CIA or somebody saying like, oh, with Facebook, we don't need a surveillance apparatus. They just do it for us. And people thought it was a hoax. I don't remember if it actually was a hoax or if it was a real piece of footage there. But, I mean, there you go. This is like an example of the culture being created. The feeling of, I have to share this on social media and boast about it and not thinking through the consequences. It's a public square.
I mean, what else is new? It doesn't seem like anybody ever thinks through the consequences of their social media activity.
That's true. You're right.
So,
yeah, except the controllers, they're all going, yes, post all your crimes.
Yes,
so we can round you up.
Execute Order 66.
And this is the reason why the thumbnail, if you guys are wondering about why there's a giant tractor on the thumbnail, this is the wonderful story. I love this story.
Well, isn't that special?
This is rivercountry.newschannelnebraska.com. We find all of our stories from everywhere. Man claims Trump bulldozer Bible prophecy as he drives towards Omaha protest.
What?
Yeah. Plattsmouth, a Plattsmouth man who warned police to stay away as he drove a bulldozer to Omaha called county dispatchers to identify himself as the Trump bulldozer Bible prophecy, according to court documents. An arrest affidavit says 39-year-old Chad Thiessen called a 911 dispatcher complaining of media inaccuracies following the 9/11 terror attacks and saying he wanted what he was doing correctly explained. Affidavit, quote, I'm letting you know I going to be coming through town in a little bit on a bulldozer out of Murray. Just so you know, I am the Trump bulldozer Bible prophecy. Affidavit, quote.
What is the Trump bulldozer Bible prophecy?
I don't know. That's the name of his deal.
Do they explain it? What the heck?
Well, let's just keep going. Quote, I'm telling you, dude, stay the bleep away from me. I got a megaphone. I've got a bleep bulldozer. The American public is gonna know that you can't be praying in secret while people are burning alive. I'm pushing everyone out of the way. The affidavit says Thiessen told the dispatcher to have a bulldozer owner call him. He said the owner would not want to press charges against him once he learned the information. Thiessen would soon reveal.
Did he steal the bulldozer?
A Cass County Sheriff's deputy attempted a traffic stop of the bulldozer near Highway 75 and Church Road, but reports that the bulldozer turned away whenever a patrol vehicle approached. The bulldozer went through fields toward the end of a runway at the Plattsmouth Municipal Airport with deputies in pursuit. Bulldozers don't move that quickly, do they? Anyway.
No, but you can't stop them.
It's true.
I think they're faster than maybe we think. I mean,
maybe, especially on land, like regular roads. Yeah. The bulldozer nearly got stuck on railroad tracks, but continued south in the opposite direction of Omaha until officials convinced him to stop in a field. The contractor, Graham Builds, reported that the 2016 Cat Model 963K had been stolen.
Oh, yeah, that's a doozy of a tractor right there.
Thiessen had modified the cab with spray foam and wood enforcements. Officials reported damage to the railroad tracks and taxiway and runway at the airport. The affidavit also says deputies recovered items Thiessen had dropped in the field from the bulldozer, including a large metal and foam helmet and large gas canister. A homemade knife with knuckles taped on the handle was also found. Thiessen is scheduled. He's scheduled
We've got some very knowledgeable bulldozer enthusiasts in the chat.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to know more about it. I've only sat in one when it was not operational, so I don't know much about the bulldozers. Thiessen is scheduled for preliminary hearings July 7th on charges of theft, possession of a deadly weapon, and flight to avoid arrest. So there you go. The Trump bulldozer Bible prophecy.
We got to keep an eye on this Bible prophecy. I wonder what that one is. Somebody needs to send me chapter and verse on that one.
Trump bulldozer Bible prophecy. I'm just, for all the different sides of the political argument here, this is another level. Like, can you imagine a guy with the bullhorn?
What the official is talking about in the chat. I think the bulldozer man and the riot control B man need to team up.
Oh,
we're putting together quite we're
connecting the dots.
Avengers, yes, an Avengers style.
Okay, here's how we get rid of. Here's how we figure out Chaz. Okay, we bring Trump bulldozer Bible prophecy man, and we equip him. Because he's in trouble, but maybe if he can help out.
Land supremacy, bulldozer land supremacy, and then we get the riot control B man. And he is the air supremacy. Now we just need machine gun jet ski dude. And then we can have air, land, and sea. We can take over, man.
I just thought that was a fun story to mix it up because it's, the rest of it's pretty depressing.
Yeah. Well, that's good, Gons. I'm glad you're lightening it up here. I'm going to take a second. I'm going to head over to our back end here on Twitch and see if we have any more Twitch followers. But either way, we should take a very short break. What do you say?
It's break time! Come on, take a break.
That's right. Just quick break, everybody. Don't go anywhere. We've got a bunch more stories. We're going to be talking about what's been going on behind the scenes with COVID-19 during all this mess. And as you might have heard, there's a lot going on. But first, I want to give a couple of big shout outs and thank yous to some new Twitch followers. Gons, are you ready?
Dinger is in position.
Dinger in position. Here we go. Sable Marked Ferret. Thank you, Sable Marked Ferret. We've got Fire Alarm Boy. Thanks, Fire Alarm Boy. We got Little Allison. Hi, Little Allison. We've got Searfax. Searfax. We've got Michael23S. Wow, my eyeballs are going bad in this thing. We've got
they're so big.
I know. Hannah Kathleen. Thank you, Hannah Kathleen. And those are our brand new Twitch followers. They joined during the show. So welcome, brand new during the show followers. Thanks for being here. It really helps us out to get as many people following and watching on Twitch as we can still. The numbers are going up and down a little bit. We're currently number 6 on the Twitch list. So not quite the second place that we've been holding for a few episodes, but that's okay. We're off schedule.
What's the topic or the Twitch thing? It's called talk shows or something?
It's called talk shows and podcasts is the category.
Okay. The category. Yes. There we go. That's what I was thinking.
It's a category.
Yeah, so we're not top trending on Twitch, right?
We're not.
Because it's not a very podcast-y platform. So
not generally. I mean, they have their own category, but yeah, not a whole lot of people watch it on there as of now. But we're gonna change that single-handedly by whatever we do. But we're taking a quick break. Do you want to do Patreon stuff here, or do you want to save that for later?
We'll do that a little bit later. Let's get through the Rona stuff.
Okay, we're gonna speed through the Rona stuff here. What's what?
COVID.
Gons, the Thundercunder in the Twitch chat is asking for your Celsius referral code.
Oh, at this very moment.
And
Okay.
do you
Yeah,
know
if you
it
want to
off
do
the
this,
top of your head?
I don't know it off the top of my head, but I
Okay,
can throw
I'll
it in.
do this while you do that. It's
Okay.
always good to get referral codes out there. It helps
Yeah.
support you and the babies. So we'll make sure
That's
to do that. Okay, so this is coming from Fox News. The article's titled, Birx says dozens of coronavirus testing sites destroyed amid protests. Ooh, uh-oh. Dr. Deborah Birx, President Trump's coronavirus response coordinator, estimated 70 testing sites were destroyed during the protests related to the death of George Floyd while under police custody, according to a shocking report. Birx reportedly raised concerns in a conference call on Monday that the destroyed COVID-19 testing sites serving inner-city populations could set back efforts to contain the spread, according to the Daily Beast. I like Fox News quoting
News.
and linking the Daily Beast.
Yeah, they're
Wow.
interesting.
Based on a recording of the call they say they obtained. Birx said the destruction, quote, had already resulted in an appreciable drop in testing rates there, according to the outlet. All of the governors are going to have to scramble to make sure there is testing available in those urban areas, Birx reportedly said. The coordinator also echoed fears that the physical act of yelling could void the health benefits from wearing a mask, while Birx, in a separate June 3rd phone call with governors, said she did not see a big surge in COVID-19 cases following Memorial Day weekend. She was concerned about the impact of protests in metro areas, the outlet wrote. During the Monday call, Birx reportedly said, as the protests grew more peaceful, more at-risk populations began attending. She reportedly urged governors to ensure law enforcement officials who responded to the protests undergo virus testing, calling it absolutely critical. Fox News requested comment from the White House press office to confirm the Monday coronavirus task force conference call. Fox News did not immediately receive a response. The Daily Beast account surfaced after news of more than a dozen states in the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico recording their highest averages of new coronavirus cases since the pandemic hit the U.S. Hospitalizations in at least 9 states have also increased since Memorial Day, according to the Washington Post. More specifically, Alaska, Arizona. Wow, they're just going to list a bunch of these states, okay? Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Florida, Kentucky, New Mexico, North Carolina, Mississippi, Oregon, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Utah, as well as Puerto Rico, have recorded their highest 7-day average increases in new cases since the start of the pandemic, the newspaper reported. The uptake in cases and hospitalizations in states like Arizona, North Carolina, California, and Utah don't appear to be related to the protests. The Daily Beast wrote, Birx reported her team followed outbreaks in 8 states last week, 38% of which were tied to community spread and 55% stemmed from places including nursing homes, food processing plants, and prisons. So there you go. There is apparently an increase going on in the COVID cases, but they are not related to the protests, because we all know that coronavirus doesn't hurt protesters.
Social distance, unless it's for social justice.
You know, it's been about 2 weeks since the protests started, so it would be right around now.
Right, it's too early
protests, if the protests were gonna cause an uptick on their own, I mean, it would start happening right about now. It takes about 2 weeks, at least that's what we've been told. So who knows? But we're still seeing the problems with the reporting of coronavirus. It's never been addressed. So how do we even know what this report with the recording of these cases is coming from?
Yeah, episode in chat. Yeah.
Bring us back, live stream. Bring us back.
Bring us back. Bring us back. I think we're back. Okay. One of the things they were talking about was if they do roll out a second wave, and you have all this civil unrest already taking place, and places like Chaz, popping up all over the country, it might get real crazy.
Yeah,
might become
totally.
really
No,
insane.
it'd be insane. I mean, there's got to be, at least 1 million people have attended these protests. I mean, shoot, I was at one to bring the reporting, and
made a big difference.
I ate some cookie some hippie lady gave me. It was not a special cookie. Don't worry. You can catch the last episode if you want to hear my boots on the ground reporting of protests near me. But Gons, there's other more exciting parts of the COVID going on. I see. Hit that COVID jingle, and if you got it handy, hit the money jingle.
COVID.
$100 billion.
I don't have any money. This is ABC7.com. Article is titled, "As Businesses Reopen, Beware of COVID-19 Surcharges."
What?
Yes, Gons. You got to pay for the COVID now. COVID ain't free, I'll tell you that much. New information released on Tuesday shows Philadelphia is the hardest hit that are most impacted by the pandemic. One way they might try to recover is by charging customers new fees. As businesses reopen, COVID-19 surcharges are popping up on receipts and bills across the country. COVID surcharges are popping up at service-type businesses. I'm seeing them at restaurants, hair salons, dentist's office, said Ted Rossman, a creditcards.com industry analyst. Okay. Some of the surcharges are steep. One restaurant in Chicago added a 26% COVID-19 charge in May, this was in May, citing increased costs. The owners did, not only were they closed for months in the reopening, they have fewer customers due to continued social distancing requirements. Quote, I think what they should do if they need to do something is raise prices. I think that's generally received better by customers, says Rossman. They just want to pay one price. They don't want to feel nickel and dimed. But business owners say the surcharges are actually more consumer friendly because they're short term. They say, well, we just want to pass along the temporary increase, but we don't want to make it permanent. I think that's well-intentioned, but I do think it misses the mark, he said. And are these surcharges legal? In general, yes, as long as the fees are. This before? Have
I have
been
not
surcharged?
I don't
I did.
think so.
I think I got surcharged, and I didn't even really notice it. I actually went out to a restaurant last week like a normal human being. And I looked at the bill. It was $35. And then when I got my credit card back before I tipped, it had risen to like $41.
Ooh.
And I was just in a hurry. I didn't really think about it. I just thought maybe I did a bad job. But yeah, I later found out that restaurant was adding the COVID surcharge. So there you go. Money, 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 baby.
You know what is going to be very scary for a lot of people is because, everyone's talking about the vaccine. And I started mentioning this on social media. I mentioned it on a video recently, I think. But the whole forced vaccination thing, like, there's always like hey, how are you going to do that? How are you going to force people to do it? Mm-hmm. But then also one way, okay, here's the reason why I bring this up, especially in like a lot of the comment section with a video I made recently about the Celsius network and how they're trying to unbank you. Like they're saying, hey, unbank yourself kind of thing. And, a lot of people criticize crypto and say, oh, it's the beast system. And it's like, well, what's on the back of your dollar bill? What if banks start to demand proof that you're vaccinated to access your account? And that's like totally way more that's super mark of the beastie. Like that is way more mark of the beastie than, hey, memorize a private key for your Bitcoin or something like that.
Well, and it doesn't even have to be as intense as your bank requiring it. I mean, think about this COVID-19 surcharge. You
Right.
could have a thing where you got to get your vaccine or your antibody test, and then you get a little card or a mark on your forehead. And
You are vaccinated. You can buy or sell.
if you're verified vaccinated, then you don't have to pay the COVID surcharge because you're not a danger. But if you don't have your little vaccination mark or card or whatever however they want to do it, then you got to pay the fee because you're a danger, you're a risk, and you got to pay for it.
Yeah, it's pretty...
Separation, man. You're second-class citizens.
I know, they're definitely tearing apart the whole society there. Okay. I'm going to go on to the next story here.
Do it.
Did you ever have the feeling that you were being watched?
This is a story from dailymail.co.uk. What happened to the story? Hold on. It's not the story that I was supposed to have. Give me 1 second. This happened last time.
Are you doing the one above it?
No, the story actually just refreshes or something. Tony Blair calls for a new digital ID so people can prove their coronavirus disease status alongside test and trace programs as world eases out of lockdown. This is kind of what we were just talking about here.
Yeah, he's jumping on the Bill Gates train.
Yeah, people will need to form a digital ID so they can prove their disease status as the world moves out of lockdown, Tony Blair has said.
Status, oh no.
The former prime minister said that only if people can show easily whether they are clear of coronavirus will industries like international travel be able to restart. Speaking at the virtual CogX technology conference, Mr. Blair said that such a system would operate alongside track and trace programs as the economy reopens. The NHS's test and trace scheme was launched in England and Scotland at the end of May, but has been beset by problems. Mr. Blair had previously urged the government to set up a mass testing program which would see the bulk of the UK population checked for coronavirus, saying it is the only way to prevent a second outbreak. Liar! I think Israel stopped their contact tracing too, which was an interesting move by Israel.
Oh, that is interesting. They were one of the first ones to start doing it, huh?
I know. Yeah, I think they stopped it, which I don't have the story on hand. But then it says here, quote, you can create a digital ID today that is much more easily protected so you can deal with a lot of privacy and surveillance issue that worry people, he said on Tuesday. Yeah, create your digital ID so you don't have to worry about surveillance because we will surveil you. It is a natural evolution of the way that we are going to use technology in any event to transact daily life, and this COVID crisis gives an additional reason for doing that. Of course it does. I think people's disease status, have they been tested? What is the result of that test, and have they had the disease? Do they have the disease? Unless you are able to record some of this data in a way people can use, it is going to be difficult to go back to anything like a near normal in things like transport. If you're going to start international travel again, how can you do that unless people can be easily tested and have some record of that test? There has always been a good case for introducing some form of digital ID, but I think that case is even more powerful today. Mr. Blair, acknowledging the increasing use of technology, risked leaving behind some people who were less comfortable with using it, but said the issue could be addressed through training and education. Basil, training and education.
Yes, of course.
You must train your mind to accept these realities now.
Oh no.
Quote, the digital divide between
programming.
Those... yeah.
What he meant to say
mind
was
control
programming and mind control.
Yeah. The quote, the digital divide between those that are familiar and can use the new tech well and those who can't is obviously going to be a big source of difficulty, he said. However, he said people would need to adapt as some sectors of the economy would be changing forever as a result of the virus. Quote, I can't see the travel, tourism, hospitality industries coming back fast. I think bricks and mortar retail has probably had its day, certainly in its present form. He said, he's so negative. What's his deal? Last week, the former prime minister said the government needs to make use of all available laboratory capacity and to support the rollout of rapid on-the-spot antigen and antibody checks. And it goes on here. Blair being famous for being one of the guys that said we need a new world order, like many, many years ago. So Not surprising that he's towing this line here, but I don't know. Just the words coming out of his mouth make it obvious. It's obvious, but then it's very uncomfortable for
well, as a
what
world
they're trying
leader,
to do over there.
It's of course, a lot of people are making the comparison with Bill Gates, of course, being the granddaddy of vaccination IDs and things like that. But for Blair, as a world leader, to be talking about it is a whole nother ball game, especially when he's literally talking about reprogram your mind to think it's normal.
We just need to educate you. We need to train you to accept the technology.
Yeah, that's spooky. I don't like it. I don't like it.
And for anyone, I'm sure at this point, people all know about Bill Gates, but we have this jingle here.
We're taking things that are genetically modified organisms and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein, right into the vein, right into the vein, right into the vein.
Yeah.
So creepy.
We just shoot it right into the vein. Funny. So funny. Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that other... Oh, I was going to say, do you want to do that story from the directorsblog.nih.gov? I can just do it real quickly.
Yeah, sure. I don't know what it is. I didn't look at it.
So this is the NIH director's blog. First, molecular profiles of severe COVID-19 infections. I'll just read a couple paragraphs so you get the idea here. To ensure that people with coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19, get the care they need, it would help if a simple blood test could predict early on which patients are most likely to progress to severe and life-threatening illnesses, and which are more likely to recover without much need for medical intervention. Now, researchers have provided some of the first evidence that such a test might be possible. This tantalizing possibility, it's tantalizing, Basil, comes from a study reported recently in the journal Cell. In this study, researchers took blood samples from people with mild to severe COVID-19 and analyzed them for nearly 2,000 proteins and metabolites. Their detailed analysis turned up hundreds of molecular changes in blood and differentiated milder COVID-19 symptoms from more severe illness. What's more, they found that they could train a computer to use the most informative of the proteins and predict the disease severity with a high degree of accuracy. The findings come from the lab of Tianan Guo Westlake University, Zhejiang Province, China. His team recognized that while we've learned a lot about the clinical symptoms of COVID-19, and this is the 80% of symptomatic infected people who recover with little to no need for medical care from the other 20%, who suffer from much more serious illness, including respiratory distress requiring oxygen, or even more significant medical interventions. And, this sets a bad precedence, in my opinion, because now it's like, oh, we just need a blood test, but, we need to make sure what kind of, how bad you would actually suffer if you get the COVID, the Ronas. So it's almost like,
it
even before you get
manipulatively.
Yeah. Even before you get it, we must blood test you for that. So I don't feel comfortable with the whole situation here. But
Dental Bean says more models and predictions. More
models and predictions from China too, nonetheless. I'm sure you trust.
Speaking of China,
all of it. Speaking of China, what are we doing? Oh, we're doing
just doing some vaccine.
We're doing some vaccine. Where's my vaccine jingle? Oh no, do I not have it?
I
do have it.
Did we lose vaccine?
No, I didn't lose it. I just didn't put it in my new little palette here. But I'll get to it here. Give me 1 second. Stall.
He'll get to it, everybody.
Kill time.
Worry. We're talking. Okay, this article comes from IB Times. It's the International Business Times. And the article is titled, "Is there a coronavirus vaccine on the way? What to know about testing of AD26-CoV2S recombinant."
Vaccine.
Was that enough time?
Vaccine.
That was enough time. Thank you.
There you go. Do you want to play this little clip on here, or what do you think?
Sure. Hang on. Let me see here. It's only a 30-second clip, so yeah, let's see what he says here. Let me.
One of the things the president said yesterday is that we're very close to a vaccine. Now, I know this is something you know a lot about. This is your job. How close are we to a vaccine? Are we very close?
Well, I mean, the confusion again is we're close to starting a phase 1 trial to determine safety. We're going to do that in about 1.5 to 2 months. But that doesn't mean you have a vaccine. In order to get a vaccine that's practically deployable for people to use, it's going to be at least a year to a year and a half at best.
33-second clip there.
Ooh, the magic number. All right. International Business Times. Johnson & Johnson announced Wednesday it is accelerating human trials of its coronavirus vaccine candidate and expects to begin testing next month. The trials originally had been scheduled for September. Quote, based on the strength of the preclinical data we have seen so far in interactions with the regulatory authorities, we have been able to further production of the Ad26-CoV-2S recombinant vaccine if it proves safe and effective. The phase 1 and 2 human trials of 1,045 healthy adults in the U.S. and Belgium will run concurrently as a double-blinded study, meaning half the subjects will receive a placebo and won't know which they received, to assess response to the vaccine and the immune response. Quote, the company is committed to the goal of supplying more than 1 billion doses globally through the course of 2021, provided the vaccine is safe and effective, J&J said. The coronavirus pandemic, which has infected at least 7.3 million people worldwide and more than 38,400 deaths. China currently is testing 2 vaccines that use a deactivated virus, while Novavax and Moderna are also testing candidates, and Gilead is testing a treatment originally developed to treat severe acute respiratory syndrome. In all, 14 vaccines and 130 therapies are undergoing examination, with 450 others in the planning stages. Dr. Anthony Fauci, head of the National Institute for Allergies and Infectious Diseases, on Tuesday, I don't know who did, and Trump has pledged to ramp up production even before vaccinate us, Trump said last month. Every soldier in plane? No, there's too many soldiers in planes.
They call it the super duper missile.
Incredible.
He's gonna release the
Well
super
done.
duper vaccine.
He's just going to load up the super duper missile and get us.
You know, I've seen a lot of Trump supporters really lose kind of faith in Trump because of the vaccine situation. A lot of them are like turning against him.
No kidding, man. That's what I'm saying. It's between the martial law and the vaccinations, it is becoming I would imagine it's become
Hairy legs and more nonsense.
Yeah.
So he's like, they really brought out incompetence.
Yeah.
On the other side, maybe
that he would be feeling confident about that.
Yeah. There's a poll on here, the ibtimes.com site. Do you expect coronavirus vaccines to be available by the end of the year? Yes, no, or I don't know. Which one should I pick? I'm going to say no. I'm just going to do it.
It says yes, no, I don't know. What an unhelpful poll.
It's such an unhelpful poll. No, most people, 65% say no. So there you go. Most people,
65% of people are professional scientists, vaccine scientists.
Yeah. We got one more COVID money thing here.
COVID.
$100 billion. I don't have any money.
TheWeek.com. That's not like the week people. That's, like a week, 7-day week.
Okay.
Mnuchin testifies additional coronavirus relief legislation is absolutely needed.
Oh, of course.
Mnuchin's Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, which, by the way, he has a signature on the dollar bill now, the paper that they print. His signature is on there. And if you guys haven't seen the footage of him and his wife holding up giant sheets of dollars with his signature on it.
What's his position? Who is this? I mean, I know the name, but
I think he's like
is he in the Treasury or something?
I think he's a Treasury Secretary. Yes. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin testified Wednesday before the Senate Small Business Committee acknowledging that coronavirus-induced unemployment remains too high and that more measures should be deployed to quicken economic recovery. Because obviously a bunch of people probably cashed out during the recent pump here. Quote, we're open-minded, but we absolutely believe small businesses, and by the way, many big businesses in certain industries, are absolutely going to need more help. I like how he slips in the big businesses, even though he starts with small businesses. Mnuchin added that while he was pleasantly surprised that previously passed $670 billion paycheck protection program helped tether people to their jobs and stymie long-term unemployment, more bipartisan legislation will be needed to inject money into the economy. From the Secretary's perspective, the next stage should look a little different, however. Whereas the PPP was passed quickly and was fairly flexible, if unclear about which businesses could receive loans, Mnuchin wants to specifically target industries that are having the greatest trouble reopening going forward. And just links to Politico to read more about it. But this just prompted the brr meme for me in my head. Just more money being printed.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's all it is. Print whatever you want. Give it around. Give it to all your buddies.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem here is that Mnuchin won't necessarily provide a list of the big businesses that he slipped in there that are going to receive more of the money. And he's not clear on how he's going to actually distribute all that money printing to the actual people that need it, the real small businesses that really need it, and some of them who didn't even get any stimulus the last go around. So it's a mess. It's a mess. It's all a lie. It's one big lie.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Okay, Gonzo, let's take a quick break. We've got some producers we got to thank.
It's break time.
Feels like we've had more breaks than normal this episode. I think we have one extra break.
We're covering more stories than we usually do, which is fine. We're blasting through here. Bringing the value, Gons, is what we're doing because we are a value for value show. What does that mean? That means that we put out the content. We do it 3 times a week most of the time. And if you as a listener get any value out of it, you have the opportunity to jump on in and join the team. Anybody who helps the show out in any way, you're a producer. We couldn't make the show if we didn't have producers. And I think it's time that we thank some of our producers now. Gons, what do you say?
Sounds good. Got my
gong
ready.
Oh, get the gong. Get the gong. I'm over here on patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. Patreon.com/CCNT. This is a great way to help the show, keep the show going. We are your essential employees. This is all we got. And so we work for our producers. And we had one come in during the show. No, we didn't. Right. No, we didn't. It disappeared. No? Oh. We had one disappear during the show. But these are our new and upgrading producers since last episode. I want to thank producer Valerie.
Oh, where's the gongs?
Gongs.
There it is.
Gongs. There you go. And we got a new producer, Eyes2C. Eyes2C. Oh, a Twitch follower and a producer. Thanks, Eyes2C. We got a new producer, Edward.
Thank you, Edward.
Thank you very much, Edward. We got one new pledge from Deb. Thanks for your support, Deb. You're the Deb. And then we have an upgraded pledge from Valerie. Thank you so much, Valerie.
Thank you, Valerie.
Producer Valerie, that's right. It's hard enough to get new people to join the producing team. It's even harder to get people to upgrade. So we appreciate that very much, Valerie.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio. Yes, they're 2 separate Patreon accounts. We only have one since the last episode.
Okay.
And
who dat?
I'm very honored to have Marlon Brando.
Become the Marlon Brando.
The Marlon Brando.
We should put that in the marketing materials.
So there you go.
Awesome.
That's our
and
one.
what about PayPal? We have anybody come in on PayPal?
We have some recurring people, but nobody. I don't think we have anybody.
Nobody new.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a one-time? Wasn't there one-timer that came in or no?
I don't think so.
Marlon. Oh, okay. No, I was thinking about Marlon Brando.
I know. He's really, he takes over your mind when you start talking about this kind of stuff. But yeah, there you go.
Marlon.
That's our support.
So thank you very much to all of our new and upgrading supporters. You are producers of the show. We couldn't do it without you. And so thank you very much. And guys, Gons has a new baby boy coming. We got to help support the little baby. And I've got some cats, and Gons has other kids. You know, this is our thing. We're doing this 3 times a week. And if you get any value out of the show, it's you have the opportunity to put some value in. It's the only way we can keep the show going. The money goes to a good place. And, since people have been signing up and helping produce the show financially, I mean, that's the only reason we're able to do this 3 times a week. I mean, it's pretty incredible. We've done like 60 episodes since quarantine started. It's nuts. Yeah. And that's all thanks to our producers. So thank you very much. Now, there's a lot of ways to support the show, to be a producer of the show. One of the ways is financial, very, very much needed platform there. But you can also create stuff for the show. If you're a creative person and you can make jingles and you know your way around some sound editing software, we've got some great jingle makers, and if you are one of them, you can make a jingle about any subject or topic or segment that we do on the show, or if you have a new one or you hear a funny quote or something, send it to canarycryradio@gmail.com. We'll play it on the show, give you some credit. It's a good time.
It looks like we got a couple jingles in, and I'm trying to Amos714 on Twitch was mentioning that they sent one, and I don't know if it was recent or older, but I do see a couple jingles come in today.
Yeah, this week was a little nuts for us, everybody. So we'll be getting to the new jingles and some new artwork on next episode. So make sure to tune in. We'll be displaying some great work from our producers. Nothing new this episode. This week went all screwy on us. So
yeah, we see the jingles come in. There's a food jingle and a Derek jingle, I think.
Okay, great. And, we'll be playing those on the next episode.
We see them. We'll get to it.
And another way to help support the show and help produce the show is with some artwork. If you're an artistic person and you're out there, some people doodle during the show. Some people have created some awesome alternative stuff. It's a great way to get involved, to raise a podcast, Gons. You know, that's what my mama always said.
Really? She told you she knew about podcasts before podcasts? I knew it. You guys are a family of time travelers.
Existed.
I knew it.
I know. I've been saying it for years. So there you go. This is it's really a community effort. This is the Canary Cry Autonomous Zone, where we take care of ourselves around here. So thank you very much, everybody. And remember us for next show. Ooh, my computer just dinged at me. Why are you dinging at me? Remember us for next show. We'll be back on Monday and be reading off some more producers there. So if you want to join the club, the elite group of people who help keep this show going, you can go to patreon.com/CCNT or patreon.com/canarycryradio. And but, you know, if Patreon's not your thing, we get it. A lot of people don't like Patreon, and that's why we have something else. It's called canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. And over there we have PayPal. You can make a one-time donation. You can sign up for a recurring donation, or you can send over some cryptocurrency over there, and that's pretty fun too. We had some cryptocurrency come in. If you send us cryptocurrency, make sure to send us an email to let us know so we can give you a shout out.
Yeah, I think somebody sent us some Dash and some Bitcoin, I think, recently. I'm trying to pull it up here, but it's not opening up as quickly as I'd like. But yeah, thank you to whoever sent us the crypto.
Blessed Fringe in the chat says we should get a Venmo, so maybe we'll get a Venmo. We'll put that out for everybody. All sorts of ways to support the show, and that would be great. Remember to do that. Let's see. Yep, we're coming back on Monday, sometime between noon and 5. We've still got some more show today, so don't go anywhere. But just so you know when to tune in again, will be Monday, sometime between noon and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The Montgomery Jones is asking to play the food jingle. I don't think you have it lined up, Gons. So we'll play
I
that
saw
on
the email
next show.
come in. I think that was one of the ones that came in from. Yeah, let me look here. The food. Yes, Mr. Magoo Montgomery.
There we go.
I think that's you. Yes, I see it.
There we go. Well,
we will play
it. We'll play it
the next
time.
episode. Yeah.
We just don't have it loaded up for the show.
Yeah, we don't have it loaded up. We got some cool things for the next show too, for some of the longer term supporters out there. So
yeah. Also, make sure to tune in on the next show. We're gonna have some fun announcements and stuff. So jump in on that. All right, Gons. Anything else, or should we get on with the show here?
Let's blah, blah, blah.
Are you okay?
DailyCaller.com. Biden spent $1.6 million in one day on Facebook ads condemning Trump for fanning the flames of white supremacy.
Oh, wow. That's a big bill.
It's a big, I mean, man, I want to spend, imagine what we can do, Basil, with $1.6 million of ad money on Facebook in one day. Just one day of Facebook ads.
Yeah.
1.6 mil. We can reach all the crevasses of the people that are needing the truth here. This article is written by Chris White, not our Chris White, though. Not our Chris White. I had to verify that. I'm like, Chris White, what are you doing? But this says former Vice President Joe Biden's campaign poured more than a hatred amidst protesters over police the same amount of money in less than a week on Facebook as he did throughout the past year of his campaign, the New York Times reported Monday. Somebody over there in the doing his budget needs to I don't know, reallocate some of the stuff. But anyway, Biden spent 1.6.
I'm sure they've got enough money to do this.
The New York Times, the Daily Caller News Foundation confirmed the report through Facebook's ad archive. Biden's campaign ad, which asked people to sign a petition condemning the president, suggests Trump is fanning the flame, blah, 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 same kind of thing. Yep, blah, blah, blah.
The attack ads have started. He's
technically
not even the nominee, and the attack ads have already begun. Whatever happened to when they go low, we go high? Whole thing, the whole Obama thing.
That was Hillary, wasn't it?
No, that was Michelle.
That was
Obama.
Hillary. Oh, I thought that was Hillary who said, "When we go low, or they go low, we go high." Or maybe
I'm sure she said it too.
Oh, yeah, I remember it from the Hillary campaign. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. There's nothing consistent about anything in politics, especially from the left, but the right too. I mean, it's still all the same.
In the chat says 1 mil can't touch all the funny Biden memes. That's a good point.
I know.
He has
that
a
is
lot
a very
of
good
memes
point.
he has to fight against.
He does. Well, plus all the footage of him like fondling little girls during press things,
sniffing their hair, gingerly, tenderly,
and whispering into their ears.
Yes.
And talking about kids rubbing their hairy legs. Okay, enough Biden. Let's move on.
Okay.
Give him too much airtime.
TheBrain.com. Oh, do it again. I stepped on it.
I'm your brain.
Okay, a little bit of brain news here. MIT packs tens of thousands of artificial brain synapses in a confetti-sized neuromorphic chip. Neuromorphic, crazy.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we like to follow tech on this show, seeing how the world is moving into a technocratic establishment, and how artificial intelligence and the hardware associated will soon rule us all. And the article reads, the human brain is a marvelous thing. It's made up of billions of neurons that carry out high-level computing functions in an instant. By comparison, computer chips are archaic. Nonetheless, chip makers and innovators strive to replicate the brain in a piece of hardware. Researchers from MIT claim that their brain on a chip design brings us closer to that vision. A team of engineers found a way to pack tens of thousands of artificial brain synapses called memristors onto a single computer chip. Notably, it is smaller than a piece of confetti. Oh my gosh, that's too small, Gons. There are endless uses for artificial intelligence. Period. That's the sentence. That's the whole sentence. There are endless uses for artificial intelligence. Many experts predict that it will be one of the most impactful technologies of the decade. However, AI doesn't always play nicely with traditional computer chips. That being said, it's clear that there's a need for a compact AI-oriented chip to power the devices of the future. The team from MIT believes that their brain-inspired chip could be a step towards filling that void. Their research published in the journal Nature Nanotechnology outlines the process. At the core of their innovation are memristors. Essentially, these are simulated brain synapses created using silicon. The MIT team also used alloys of silver and copper. Their unique product was a chip that is able to remember and recall images with a high degree of detail. Notably, the chip did so with routine accuracy that far surpasses other types of simulated brain circuits. Unlike a standard transistor that can only switch between 0 or 1, memristors can take on a range of values. That trait resembles the human brain. It also allows the memristors to remember these states and recreate them over and over. The MIT team was able to pack tens of thousands of memristors onto the one chip. Notably, the chip was only 1 square millimeter in size. It successfully recreated a grayscale image of Captain America's shield and consistently altered a photo of MIT's Killian Court. Although those tests might not seem impressive, they are a positive sign. The researchers involved believe that the advancements could lead to a future where portable artificial brain computers could perform complex tasks on the same level as a supercomputer without the massive power or network connectivity requirements. Ji-Won Kim, an associate professor of mechanical engineering at MIT, has a bright outlook on the future of so-called brain-on-a-chip applications. He says, so far, artificial synapse networks exist as software. We're trying to build real neural network hardware for portable artificial intelligence systems. Imagine connecting a neuromorphic device to a camera on your car and having it recognize lights and objects and make a decision immediately without having to connect 1,024 artificial neurons to mimic the brain. Moving forward, the MIT team has big plans for its brain-inspired chip technology, Kim says. We would like to develop this technology further to have larger scale arrays to do image recognition. And that's
there was a documentary that we watched called The Technocalypse, like way back. I think it was in the first 10 episodes of Canary Cry Radio that we talked about it. The microchip to see how they would respond and how they would be able to, utilize it. But man, I feel like they've come a long way since then, at least publicly, with some of this stuff. And now, because of the way the internet works and supercomputers, they know what they want out of, cramming everything into smaller and smaller sizes. But yeah, I can imagine this type of device would become helpful. And it's almost like creating what are those little Illuminati one-eyed little things from that movie? Oh my gosh, that is so vague that it's not going to help you mention the name of it. But it's those little yellow people, little yellow helpers,
minions.
Yes, it's kind of like that. I feel like that's kind of where this is headed, where you have these little guys.
You get a little minion to follow you around?
Yeah, they follow you around, and they have a good memory. They're little helpers, and they can just help you out instead of always being connected to the internet. So, I don't know. It just feels like it
sounds like a blast. The minions are so cute.
Perfect toy for all the evil people out there, the evil villains that want to take over the world or steal the moon or whatever it was there.
There's a lot of naughty chatters talking about pocket brain.
Pocket brain.
You guys, get your brains out of the gutter.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, so there you go. Some advancements going on there. And of course, the smaller and smaller, this is an entirely different paradigm for computer chips and computation, with these neural networks looking nothing like traditional computation or computer hardware. And that's why, we need them. We need them because artificial intelligence needs a brain.
Yeah.
Hans, we need a brain.
I know. Just more data collection and processing, just faster and smaller and more like the human. Funny how
you want to tell me about space?
Let's do it.
Space. Wanna go to space?
Asteroid Bennu discovery. NASA's OSIRIS-REx space probe eyes potential landing site. And yeah, we always keep track of these crazy names for these alleged space vehicles. And OSIRIS-REx being something we've talked about in the past. The unmanned, because it's manned or it's driven by an alien, I don't know. The unmanned OSIRIS-REx space probe recently took a low swoop over the surface of Bennu, an asteroid NASA has been observing from orbit for the rocky surface, and shot 347 photographs later stitched into a mosaic map. Always with them stitching together with the map there. And that seems kind of low, 820 feet. It didn't smash into the thing. Anyway, never a straight answer. Never a straight answer. OSIRIS-REx is expected to dislodge and gather samples from the different parts of Bennu called Nightingale in October. However, NASA will use this map to identify a backup landing zone within Osprey should something go wrong. The probe has been orbiting the asteroid since 2018 and has been preparing to collect a chunk of asteroid rock, which it will bring back to Earth in 2023 when the alien disclosure will officially take place. I'm just throwing stuff in here now. The mosaic shows Osprey located in the crater at the bottom of the image, immediately above the dark spot of the crater's center. Okay, some pictures of rocks. Always super convincing, NASA. Pictures of rocks. Photos NASA could use to identify the best areas within Osprey for the probe to obtain a sample should the procedure at Nightingale fail. A lot of fail-safe mechanisms going on here. Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to talk about with this one. They're just, mining space rocks.
It's good because Trump wants to mine the moon and asteroids, and James Cameron's trying to mine the asteroids. We're going to run out of all of the good metal stuff under our own classic.
Mining space rocks. You going to tell us about some... Oh, go ahead.
Flippy Official in the chat says, if you aren't watching on Twitch, head to twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. We can get those numbers up for just a few more minutes here. So we can end on a good average so we can unlock the cool tools that will increase the quality of the show. Hoof it through the national parks of western United States, Joshua Tree, the Grand Canyon, Bryce Canyon, and breathe deep the pristine air. These are unspoiled lands, collectively a great American conservation story, yet an invisible menace is actually blowing through the air and falling via raindrops. Microplastic particles, GONS, tiny
invisible
chunks.
Enemy.
Yeah, less than 5 millimeters long of fragmented plastic bottles and microfibers that fray from clothes all months. They calculated that over 1,000 metric tons of microplastic particles fall into 11 protected areas in the western United States each year. That's the equivalent of over 120 million plastic water bottles. Quote, we just did that for the area of protected areas in the West, which is only 6% of the total area, says lead author Janice Brainy, an environmental scientist at Utah State University. The number was just so large. It's shocking. It further confirms an increasingly hellish scenario. Microplastics are blowing all over the world, landing in supposedly pure habitats like the Arctic and remote French Pyrenees. They're flowing into the oceans via wastewater and tainting the American West. and presumably across the rest of the world. Given that these are fundamental atmospheric processes, they are falling in the form of plastic rain, the new acid rain. Plastic rain could prove to be a more insidious problem than acid rain, which is a consequence of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide emissions. By deploying scrubbers in power plants to control the former, the catalytic converters in cars to control the latter, the U.S. and other countries have, over the last several decades, a way to scrub water or land or air of the particles. This stuff is absolutely everywhere, and it's not like there's a plastic magnet we can drag through the oceans. What makes plastic so useful, its hardiness, is what also makes it an alarming pollutant. Plastic never really goes away. Instead of breaking into even smaller bits that infiltrate ever smaller corners of the planet. Even worse, plastic waste is expected to skyrocket from 260 million tons a year to 460 million tons by 2030. According to the consultancy McKinsey. More people joining the middle class in economically developing countries means more consumerism and more plastic packaging. To qualify just how bad the problem has become across the American West, the researchers used collectors in 11 national parks, etc. They tell us how they did it. So they filtered out a bunch of plastic from dirt. The article goes on for quite a long time, so I think we got the main points there, Gons. Plastic rain, it's coming for you. Another thing to watch out for.
Let it rain!
What I say, let it rain.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
More fear.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a problem, I suppose, but yeah, just more fear. All right. We got one more story, and I know that we've dropped several times today on the stream. And if it's bothering you, then you can always go to the RSS feed on your podcatcher, whether it be Apple Podcast app or Stitcher or Spotify, whatever you got going on, to hear a clean version of the episode. Just want to remind everybody of that. And we got one more story here.
He's a Satanist from one of the Satanist churches here where they sacrifice babies.
And what do they do with the babies?
And melt those babies into candles.
I tried to dig down or figure out who that guy was, and I found the clip a couple times on like montages on YouTube, but I can't find his name. I don't know who this. He was like a televangelist guy. Anyway, mirror.co.uk. Satanic student sexually abused children and forced them to eat human meat.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Why are we ending with such a scary story, Gons?
And if the people watching on screen, you're going to see something pretty crazy here. A university student led a satanic sect and sexually abused young people, forcing them to eat what he said was human flesh, it is claimed. Matteo Valdembrini, who referred to himself as the devil, has been arrested in Italy after the shocking allegations came to light. The Italian media reports Valdembrini, who is also known as Il Diavolo, the devil, has been charged with 13 counts of sexual violence, slavery, and having images of child abuse. He was arrested in the province of Prato or Prato, in the northern Italian region of Tuscany. Valdembrini is accused of leading a sect and convincing members to perform sexual acts with him by telling them they would receive supernatural powers. Man, there's nothing new under the sun. Right?
Seems to be a common tactic.
Yeah, and there's a picture of him. I don't know if this is him, but it's allegedly him wearing an Anubis mask. Anubis being one of the Egyptian gods.
Yeah, you know what's kind of silly about that picture? That little emblem on the forehead of Anubis looks like
to suffer horrible things that we mentioned several times in the article now. Local media report the suspect who was studying victim. He reportedly selected his victims by looking for vulnerable people online through word of mouth. He is alleged to have created a resurrection ritual where he would be strangled by new members of the sect before pretending to be dead and then standing up as if resurrected. He reportedly threatened
Sounds lame.
You wouldn't buy it? You wouldn't fall for it?
Yeah,
if this guy was like,
he pretends to be dead. What does he do? Close his eyes and stick his tongue out? Blech, you got me. Blech.
he reportedly threatened his victims to stop them reporting the abuse and told one girl she had to have sex with him or her 7-year-old sister and parents would die. That is horrible. The victims were reportedly told, told to have sex to get rid of their demons, which is a common trait in these sort of like satanic sex cults. Local newspaper Courier reports that on New Year's Eve 2018, the victims were told to eat human meat he claimed to have bought from a man selling bodies in Florence. It's unclear if the meat was really human flesh. Victims were reportedly forced to send naked pictures. Bad man. Bad person.
Bad man.
So
I'm
arrested.
glad they got him.
Fantastic. Yeah, it took him long enough. And the picture of the guy, I mean, he looks like a good looking dude, you know. Totally.
Kind of.
Well, I mean, just a
Looks
guy
like a
that's
creep.
Well, now that you've read the article.
Frenzy.
But there you go. That's our.
And melt those babies into candles.
And also.
Demonic power.
He's got creepy eyes, man.
Well, he does have creepy eyes, but in that photo.
Creepy Satanist eyes. I don't like it.
Satanist. What exactly are the traits of a Satanist eyes?
I don't know. Just look at him, man. That's it. Those are
If
them.
not googly eyes. Googly eyes aren't said eyeballs all huge.
Yeah. Well, you got to stop putting these Satanist articles at the end, man, because...
What do you mean?
We always end on these Satanist articles, and it's all spooky and scary.
Okay, well, do you want to do a fun one then?
I'm looking. I'm seeing what I got laying around here.
There's not much of a fun article to go with.
I don't really have anything else.
Well, there was this story that I don't think we talked about it, and actually the article is really disappointing, so that's why I didn't really include it. But there was a guy dressed as a Grim Reaper that walked around the Florida beaches for the Rona. Did you hear about this guy?
No. Tell me about it.
Okay, so Deseret.com, which is actually I think it's a Mormon outlet, the Church of Latter-day Saints outlet. Remember the Florida lawyer posing as the Grim Reaper? He just joined protests in Florida.
Wow.
And again, kind of a disappointing story. And there's a picture of a guy. There he is dressed in his black robe as the Grim Reaper and with the whole garb walking the beaches and like some kid with a surfboard like, huh? What's going on? The lawyer who went viral for posing as the Grim Reaper of Florida's beaches recently attended crowded protests. What's going on? Attorney Daniel Ulfelder went viral in April for dressing up as the Grim Reaper and visiting beaches in Florida. As I reported for the Deseret News, Ulfelder planned to dress up to spread awareness about the coronavirus and how deadly it can be. He wrote, quote, "Many of you have asked if I am willing to travel around Florida wearing Grim Reaper attire to the beaches and other areas of the state opening up prematurely. The answer is absolutely yes. Beginning May 1st. Remember May Day?
Oh, May Day.
We will hit the road here in state. Please retweet and spread the word. But this week, Felder posted a few photos and videos of himself attending protests in Florida over the death of George Floyd, racial injustice, and police brutality, according to Fox News. He wrote, Definiak Springs, Florida. Huge crowd. Stay hopeful and stay strong. And there he is wearing the I Can't Breathe t-shirt and Black Lives Matter and the mask. And he's not in his Grim Reaper outfit, which is kind of disappointing. I was hoping that he was going to these protests,
What's
in
even the
full
point
costume.
if he's not in the Grim Reaper costume?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. This is a very disappointing article. Which is why we did not include it in the mix, but you wanted to end in something a little more fun.
Than the other one.
So less Satanist, more guy in Grim Reaper costume.
Great. All right. Well, I think we'll end it there. This has been a long one. What are we at?
So
we're almost at 3 hours. Holy smokes. Yeah, let's get out of here. We got to eat some dinner. Thanks everybody for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Remember, you can support the show, help produce the show by going to patreon.com. /CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk, and support us there. There's fun stuff. There's a bunch of bonus episodes, but more importantly, you can take ownership of the podcast, your podcast, and we'll be back here on Monday. So tune in and help out, and we'll be giving more shout outs. I want to give one last shout out to a new Twitch user that joined. There's two of them here. One of them is Get Saved Now. And
oops, wrong one.
This is a fun one. We got a fact checker bot now following on Twitch. So good. We need a fact checker bot, of course. Yeah, so that's awesome. And remember, there's lots of other ways to support the show. You can send in jingles. You can send in art. Help produce the show in all sorts of ways. You can send those to canarycryradio@gmail.com. And also, remember, you can go to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
Yeah. Grizzly Dude 72 in the chat says he gave $50, so we will give you a shout out now, and then we'll add you into the next shout outs on the next episode. Remember, that's going to be on Monday, sometime between noon and 5 p.m. PST. So make sure to tune in there on twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. Now, here's the other thing, folks. Remember, we've been doing this for a long time, and we've got a lot of episodes. We've been doing a podcast for years. So remember to subscribe to the podcast. There's two different ones you got to remember. There's Canary Cry Radio, and you can find that on any podcast player. And there's Canary Cry News Talk, two separate shows. You should subscribe to both of them. Go through the back catalog. Lots of hours, hundreds of hours of easy listening with your buddies Basil and Gons, learning all about the fringy stuff, some biblical prophecy stuff, some time travel, some space stuff. It's all there. It's all you're gonna want to catch up. Y'all got to catch up. So it's there forever. If we ever get kicked off of YouTube or Twitch or whatever, you want to be subscribed on a podcast player, because they'll keep coming out there. You got all sorts of fun stuff. So thank you so much. I do want to mention again, because we had some people asking about it, go to canarycry.com/crypto. That's a great way to learn about the decentralized internet and learn more about cryptocurrency and things like that. That's just a resource that Gon's put together for you. So make sure to do that. It's going to be very important as control continues to tighten its grip upon all of us. The decentralized internet will be an important thing in the future. So learn about that. Okay, now, again, if you can support the show financially or with production, that is awesome. But if that's not in the cards for you, we totally understand. Another great way to support the show is just to tell your friends. Send an episode, whether it be on Twitch or YouTube or something on the RSS feed. You got somebody in your life who's starting to wake up, and a great way to help them along is by sending them an episode of Canary Cry News Talk or Canary Cry Radio. So make sure to do that. It's a great way. And, it's a great way to walk right up to them, grab them by the cage, and then y'all know what to do. You got to shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! Don't ever silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. So make sure to tell your friends about the show. Word of mouth is the best way to help grow the show and the list of producers. So thank you so much. Remember, patreon.com/CCNT to support the show financially, or canarycryradio.com/support. End of the show here, we're going to have a bunch of done. We're all done. We're getting out of here. So stick around. Playlist coming up next. Make sure to tune in on the next episode of Canary Cry News Talk. But until then, think outside the cage.
shake things up. I wanna shake things up, shake things up.
Leave the bird alone.
I wanna stir up some controversy. I wanna rattle a few cages. I wanna rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never die, little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.
Don't let me go into the archives and find out what I told you. I tell you something. People call me everything under the sun, accuse me of lying and everything else. I try to give you a heads up. I warn you. And then months later, when I'm right, everybody forgets. I said this months ago. I said this months ago. I tried to tell y'all this is what was happening. I tried to tell you heads are gonna roll. I tried to tell you it's chaos. It's a mess. I tried to tell you and nobody wanted to listen. Do y'all hear me now? I'll say something months in advance and then it comes to fruition and then y'all forget I reported. See, they're gonna have breaking news like it's news. You know what the news was today? I tried to tell you. But nobody wanted to listen.
You are entering a dimension of sound. You carefully come in through the threshold with wonder, yet skepticism. You see the faint shape of an outline of a robot arm petting a cat. You faintly hear the haunting sounds of a man playing a tambourine. The sound augments into two men playing with a soundboard. You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Stay a while and listen.
Your humans will be confined in a people's zoo.
People, I'll keep you safe and warm in my people's zoo. I'll keep you safe and warm now in my people's zoo. You and you in my people's zoo. I'll keep the cameras on.